Greetings, and welcome to Wild and Weird Radio Live. I am Ron, that's Joe, and that over there, I don't know, some guy who hangs out.
Bearded Wonder, the news collector extreme.
That's him. He just hangs out here. No, that's Brandon, everybody. If you see, everybody say hi to Brandon. Please. Make it feel good. There. See? Brandon has been very, very busy lately. We're seriously proud of him. He's been working on his new book. It is out, and congratulations, buddy. That's freaking awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Now, for the rest of you, make sure that you're liking, you're subscribing, you're sharing, and hitting that like button. If I want to see hearts, okay, during this program, I want to see hearts because we've got a heck of a program lined up for you guys. It's going to be a good one. We're going to go everywhere. We're putting everything on the table. And Joseph, Joe's here.
That's right. I'm still here.
Joe, tell the audience what's going to happen tonight.
Well, we're running a very special show because anybody who's been anybody recently, apparently, because it's over 100,000 watches. Small Town Monsters. We were featured really heavily in the episode of Sasquatch Unearthed, and there's been a lot of questions about how we collect data. There's been a lot of questions about
it's all CGI, guys.
There's been a lot of questions about, and they're really good questions. None of it's been like jabs. There's only been a couple jabs, which is bizarre. This is the internet. I figured we've been getting eaten alive by somebody by now. But most of the people are really intrigued because the approach we take and what we're going to be doing tonight is actually covering that approach we take with a good friend of ours that we actually met in all of this weirdness. But before we do that, I want to take a second to give everybody a shout out, especially our super chatters. We got Adam Good here. He's telling Pat good work, which means he's watched some of the video that Pat's produced here for us.
I know. Didn't he do a great job? He did a great job.
Pat is grip number 2.
Yes, he's grip number 2, and he's going to be possibly a lead camera the way that he's working. I mean, he's done good, man.
Could be.
I'm proud of him.
We got Russ Bailey in the house. We, of course, have Pat. Then we've got James Boggs. Oh, by the way, James, I threw your magnet in the mail this morning. So you
thought he was going to say he threw it in the trash, but that's cool.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till after the holiday was over because every time I ship something before a holiday, something goes sideways. But yeah, your thing went out in the mail. You should have probably. I think you're in next day. You should have it probably Saturday or Monday. Anyway, Zakia's here. We've got who else we have in the house? Terry McCullough. Hey, how you doing? Everyone still has their thumbs. What? I mean, I still have my thumbs, but like I'm a chef, so only one of them goes down so far.
Yeah, well, it's all good.
One of them's missing the tip.
Well, that's a story for another day. So, Deuster, what is going on?
Dewey's here. Dewey.
And then the guitar chain Craig. I mean, I have a guitar with a chain. Oh, Adam Good with a super chat already.
Adam's off to the
house already.
The sponsors here, everybody.
He's on the
sponsors
ball.
here.
But guitar chain. I have a guitar that is strapped with a logging chain. It is a beautiful thing. I've had that for almost 20 years now. God, I'm old.
Oh, boy.
And let's see. It's everybody else. We got Robin Sims. Robin Sims is in with us, and then I think that wraps us out there.
Yep, looks like that's it for right now. Everybody, share it out. Let's get it out there and get some more people in here because it's going to be a really good chat. And we have a really, really, really big announcement later on in the show. You want to be around for that, and it's going to affect everybody in the audience.
Yes.
So, and in a good way, not a bad way. It's not like you're here and then you get a zap if you're here. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be something good. I promise.
Not this time.
Anyway. Oh, it's been a while since you tuned in, Robin. Well, things have changed a little, but not much. We've increased our viewership a bit. We've been in a few products, and the chat's a little crazy. Joe's back. I mean, it's just like an alternate universe, but maybe that's what it always was. Maybe it was just, you remember it from, that Mandela universe or something. I don't know. I don't know. All right, Joe.
Yeah.
Let's get our guest in here.
Which one?
There's only one. The other one comes later.
Okay, gotcha. Good deal. All right. Teleporter on. Beaming in Anita Alen.
There she is.
Hey guys.
Welcome aboard.
You know the poem about teleporting, right?
Well,
I teleported home one night with Ron and Sid and Meg. The Ron stole Maggie's heart away and I got Sydney's leg.
That's great. That is great.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, welcome to the show.
It's good seeing you, my dudes. How you been?
We've been busy.
Yeah, we've been busy. It's been a lot going on. We got a report just yesterday, actually. So reaching out to that guy, speaking with him.
Awesome.
It's been busy.
Yep, down in this area, nobody really cares. They're like, "Oh yeah, I saw something."
That happens a lot, though.
Yeah, okay.
It does happen. It really does happen. Like, we'll see stuff on Facebook. It's like, hey, has anybody seen this? There'll be like the frigging gray alien walking across their front yard or something, and they won't contact us, but they'll post it on social media.
Oh yeah, no. One of the. So yeah, I'm working on collecting a series of stories about my region for a book, and one of the really cool ones I got recently was from the Roanoke Checkpoint and Hazards webpage. And this girl was asking if anybody else had seen this giant glowing blue orb crossing 22581, and I'm like, let's talk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it pays you to just scout a lot of those pages. That's one of the things you kind of should do, because a lot of it doesn't get reported.
Well, like again, around here, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. Like my friend that was over at the Withville UFO Festival with me, she and her boyfriend had recently seen a cluster of lights. And so they were kind of curious about things because they had run across it. And they're like, oh, yeah, we saw something.
We saw something. Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, I guess that's the best way to be, right? I mean, there's something.
Like, how often do people just see something and just, after they see it and experience, they're like, well.
Multiple times.
All the time.
Never talk about that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times. I mean, that's the truth. Multiple times. Audience members, friends, and everyone gathered. If you have any questions tonight, feel free to drop them out there. I think just about everybody here on the panel is probably capable of answering some of them, or attempting to anyway. But if you want to share some accounts, then by all means, here's your place, and you will be heard. No one's going to be laughing at anybody unless, we're laughing at Brandon.
Yeah, because now, I'm not the butt of the jokes anymore. What? I've been promoted. Brandon, it's your turn. You're the effing new guy now.
I'm the whipping boy.
It's on.
Well,
oh man. So all right, looking at the paranormal in general, then we'll get to the topic here in a little bit. But just paranormal.
Hang on. Someone screamed for us to do the thing. We have to do the thing.
Ooh.
I'm behind. Forgive me.
And the Sky Daddy has befallen us now. So we look at all of this data. We look at all of the research as it comes in. We don't go in. We do our best anyway to not go in with any kind of a bias, any kind of a bent towards what we're going to find and how we're going to present it. Because our goal ultimately with the collective and it just individually, because this is the way science should be, is to collect the data, let the data represent itself without my opinion influencing said data or a group's opinion influencing the data, and then allowing it to speak for itself, to allow other people to make up their own mind about the data. We've made various claims, ultimately, when it comes down to it. Bold claims, some would say, about how a lot of this stuff seems to work. And we're not making those claims based off of just assumptions or us going out there and feeling a certain way or thinking a certain thing and then saying, oh, this is definitely going to be what it is. Right?
Yeah. Never go into a situation assuming you know what's going on, because the universe just waits for you to get cocky.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
Yep.
There's a lot to that. You're absolutely right. And I think that some of this phenomena is exactly what you just said. I think it wants you to think that you're in control, and then it smacks you upside the head and is like, nah. We're not doing that. We're doing this.
Uh-oh.
What?
Well, check this out. We got a new subscriber. Lord Jordan has now
welcome
joined the fold of the wild and weird. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Lord Jordan.
I think that calls for another Sky Daddy.
Where are you from, Lord Jordan? Let us know. Please don't be
has blessed us.
Yes, don't be scared off by that. That's a normal thing around here. You'll get used to it, I promise.
It's an inside joke.
Yeah, you'll get used to it.
Everybody in the family knows the joke.
Everybody can blame Adam Good for that. Anyway, back to the that part of the discussion. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's there's a lot of people who go into these things and they already know the answer before they even look.
Your cup's already filled. There's nothing anyone could add to it.
Right. Well, we know. I mean, we know that simple quantum reality states that we can't know it unless we do know it, and we're not going to observe it unless we have it within us to observe. So if we're not observing, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So by all logic, that's the only way that some of these people can really exist is, I don't want it to be, 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 and therefore it's not.
I often say that belief constitutes reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more effort you put towards the mass hallucination or whatever you want to call it, the more it becomes real.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You can take the old Sherlock Holmes approach and say everyone's a suspect.
Everyone.
No, it was me. It was me. I did it.
Could be a suspect. I mean, I guess.
All my fault.
It could be. Anyway.
I got the feed up over on Facebook. That way I can catch any stragglers that come in.
Catch those stragglers.
Yeah, I finally got my YouTube fixed, so I'm actually here with that.
Way to go.
Oh.
Good job. That's awesome.
That was a nightmare.
Adam Good, that is the fact. You are one of many sponsors.
Yes.
But
yes,
so,
I actually have a list of the sponsors. Go ahead, Joe.
So when we're looking at these things, and this is broad phenomena, that I'm not isolating one specific thing at the moment, but when we're looking at these things, we always keep an open mind. Not so open that our brain falls out, but we keep an open mind to look forward, to keep examining what's happening in front of us, and also to not miss what's coming up to our left or right. Because often when we're out looking for subject A, and I've said it 1,000 times, subject B rears its head. That's when we have an interaction of some sort, where we have some kind of a weird happening will take place, and we are just there.
They literally addressed that on the last Beyond Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, really?
Literally addressed that. They didn't say it exactly like that, but that's exactly what they were saying, paraphrased. Yes.
Well, I will be waiting for the check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They found that while they were looking for one thing, often something else seems to show up. I'm like, wow, where have I heard that before?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds like we've been doing this a while. But it also is a good thing, because it means, look, guys, we're not crazy.
It does.
There's multiple validation, and it's coming from other sources at this point. And it also helps me, because I'm more inclined to say, with those people who are like, oh, that's all, smoke and mirrors and that's a TV show. Well, wonderful. It is a TV show. But some of that stuff that they're getting, yeah, it's real. I mean, it's real. Some of it,
Some of that stuff happens other places as well.
Exactly.
So it's not isolated as much as we would think. It's only isolated because that's the one that we're being made aware of.
Yep.
But I've heard of several other places like that, and also in other countries.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's all around the world. These spots are around the world.
Down the road from y'all. I mean.
Oh, yes.
As funny as this sounds, I always use the Spock approach. I eliminate all logical answers afterwards. The illogical then must be the logical conclusion. Yeah, and that's exactly how we try to go about it as well. When we're looking at the data when it's coming in, for example, when we start getting weird radiation readings, one of the first things I start doing is start scanning the ground. I'm looking for pieces of uranium glass, usually.
You've got uranium glass, you got granite, you've got possible, if it's low levels, and you could have decay of some kind of matter under the ground. There's all kinds of things it could be, but
I live where there's plenty of uranium already. I mean, our whole area is rich with that, so we've got radon issues.
You've got radon, and yeah. And some of the Geiger counters.
Radon. I've got a radon pump for it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and some of the Geiger counters will pick that up, and some won't. So that's your issue with that. So
the first thing, like I said, with just looking directly at the radiation issue, we will look at USGS surveys and
Larry Host, bless you, my friend. Larry Host, you get a Sky Daddy blessing.
Okay.
Greetings from Martinsburg, West Virginia. Thank you, sir, for
greetings, Martinsburg.
Show. That is huge, man. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes.
Much appreciated. Larry Host.
So,
believe it or not, it costs money to run this show.
Yeah, and you guys, these live shows, just taking a side step here, these live shows and the donations that you guys have been keeping on and keeping up with for the last month and a half or so, and the new donors that have come in and that they will give even in small amounts, all of that has added up to the point where now what we're doing and the services that we have for our live broadcasting is at a net zero for us. We're now no longer having to pay out of our own pockets to keep this show rolling.
Yep.
And it's the first time that we've been able to do that since we started. This
was the dream, and it's to build the machine, and you guys are the ones who are building the machine, and our job is to provide you data, entertainment, and amusement. Sometimes, I guess that's. The amusement part is always free, however. So,
but this is how we avoid
Patreon. Tell you
Patreon.
how much we appreciate that, because it
huge.
Has been. There's been some months when we're just kind of like, okay, well, let's make sure that we do not run over on like minutes, because we're going to get charged extra.
Well, I don't like to run over on minutes anyway, because they just love to get that extra $3 from us every time. They do. It's like it becomes a challenge now to where if I have to, I just try to cut it down so we don't go over, because it's like, you know what, those $3 add up. But and then it becomes a challenge to me, because I'm just like, I wonder if I can make Joe say something he didn't say.
Yeah, we're gonna Franken edit.
Yeah, that Franken bite. Yeah, that's what we do.
But yeah, Larry, Adam, James, you guys, everybody who's been given in the donation pool and super chat here, you guys are absolutely amazing, and Deuster as well. We've got you're the Spooky Appalachia, Larry. All you guys are just phenomenal people. We much appreciate having you guys as part of our team. And Larry, we will actually, if you can contact our Facebook page and send us a mailing address, we will hook you up with something cool, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, any of our 20 and over donors get something actual physically cool. They don't just get a digital, Matthew McConaughey necklace. I mean, come on, but anybody can do that.
I'll do this too. I'll make this offer tonight. Anybody who donates
What?
$20 again will get a signed copy of my book.
Oh, well, that's
Hard
cool.
copy.
That's cool. That's
Wow.
cool, Brandon.
That's awesome, man.
That's sweet, buddy. Okay, so back to what we were talking about.
Back to the topic at hand.
So we have
look at USGS data.
Yeah.
Anytime we get a weird radiation reading in an area, we will comb the ground for physical evidence of anything that could be radioactive. We will cross-reference USGS data to see if there's minerals that have been recorded, like Ron had mentioned, granite, radium, anything like that. We will also look for any kind of stuff for meteorological, and we'll check for any kind of weird solar flares that we could have detected. And it's a lot of time. We don't just go here and say we got this reading and then leave it at that.
You just remind me of something, Joe. Speaking of weird readings, I want to bring this up from the news.
Are you going to read something weird?
Yes. Well, I'm just going to do it from memory because I've read this article so many times.
Hey, Chris.
They found an object on the moon that's 5 times bigger than the Big Island in Hawaii, and it's a few hundred feet underground.
Yep.
And they said it's made out of metal, but they can't tell what it is yet. But they think it's a meteor that might have just sunken in the ground.
Got embedded.
Yeah, that's what they're saying it is right now. But that's
I was hoping that
a meteor that knocked it off our rock.
I was hoping you guys wouldn't find that, though. I was really hoping you wouldn't find
How
that.
big was the one that killed the one that killed the dinosaurs? Was only like what 20 miles in diameter?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 30 tops. I don't really remember the exact size.
The crater is 30.
Like, yeah. You're talking about the landmass?
Well, the mass of the asteroid that hit.
Oh no! It was only like a mile or something, right, Joe?
Well, just think about that. Like, they're saying that this thing is almost 200 miles wide.
Yeah, like
it hit the moon.
If it is a meteorite, it had to have been the one that knocked the moon off of our rock, and it just stuck.
Yeah, it's stuck in the moon, right? Like that's what we're thinking, like a conglomerate, like the mass inside. And,
the only other thing, because if an asteroid of that mass hit the moon, it would have forced it back into attunement with the Earth.
Yeah, it would have blew it apart.
Again. So the moon that we're looking at then would essentially be the equivalent of a pearl that's formed around this meteorite.
Right. Right. If that's the case, that's right. Cool. And then there's the other, you know why I like Spock in Data on Star Trek? Because they were logical, but they also didn't shy away from outside the box thinking. And I think that's one of our issues today. We got a lot of people who just want to stay in that box. They can't look outside. But, you got to look at that. Like, that's a possibility that is exactly what this is. There's also another
with the super chat. Apparently,
what is it?
James Bogg says for some reason super chat ain't working.
And
then James says, "Yeah, I was gonna mess with Brandon, and it wouldn't do it."
Well, that's weird.
So that's weird. Hopefully they can get that straight.
That's the government.
Anyway,
yeah, that is weird.
There's been rumors forever of there being a secret moon base made by us.
Well, it's an awful big moon base, and if it's secret, we probably didn't build that.
The other thing too that I can think of is, do you remember when the government was joking around supposedly about blowing up the moon back in like the 60s?
No, yeah.
Maybe that was one of their attempts that didn't work.
Hey man, you never know. They did some crazy stuff.
Well, they've always had that story about the secret base on the far side of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some say it's our people, some say it's Russians, some say it's aliens.
That's right. That's right.
A friend that swore that was where they took the cows to exsanguinate them and make human-cow hybrids.
Oh, okay.
That's so like minotaurs?
All right.
No, I think they look like people, but they're made from cows. I'm not sure how that worked.
Huh. Well, that's, they make...
Cow blood was being used to clone humans.
I don't know. McDonald's makes the McRib, so...
Yeah.
That sounds like a new Clive Barker book.
No, even Clive Barker uses more science than that.
Wow.
That's not how cloning works.
That's hilarious.
That's science, not science.
Checking
That's true.
Checking this the thing over here, guys. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm looking at it. That's weird. It's not showing any issues either. So I don't know. Let's figure that out. Anyway,
could be YouTube.
Carry on.
Yeah, it happens from time to time with YouTube, and it'll get finicky and won't let people super chat. It happened. I know last month there was a big issue with it, and a lot of creators were having some trouble.
It makes it even more fun to see who gets the $20 first.
Yeah, it's cool, right? All right. Anyway,
anywho, we follow that same kind of Spock approach to eliminate all the most logical answers, because if we're not, then we're doing a disservice to the data. It's going to point you in the right direction one way or another. You have to be able to be led by the data, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. You have to be literally vigilant for every little thing that's happening around the event, because you don't know what little thing that you might document or record is actually the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Data is don't ever cherry pick your data.
That's how a lot of cold cases are solved, is by one little piece of data that's overlooked. And then they go back after years and years of not looking at it, and somebody figures it out. Somebody solves the puzzle with that one little piece of data.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to how we conduct research, it is an everything on the table approach, which is the title of tonight's episode. And there's refreshingly a lot of groups across the country and around the world who are starting to follow that same kind of an approach. We're seeing it now more televised, with Skinwalker Ranch and things like that. We're seeing it more televised, and people getting a hold of it and running with it, because there's weird stuff happening. There's a ton of strange and bizarre activity happening. It's just how many people have been recording it. And how much of it goes back to what Pat said earlier. Is like, oh, well, that was weird. We'll never talk about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, it's true.
When I had mine, like I had this experience. I had nobody to talk to about it. And I remember having conversations with people where I might have been able to squeeze it in about how I saw a UFO one time, but I was too afraid to say something.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we know. I mean, that happens.
I've got a guy that I just met through a chat group yesterday who saw essentially a Sasquatch of some kind, and he's getting totally harassed by his friends picking on him for even admitting to having seen it. And he's rather traumatized. And I said, dude, if you need somebody to talk to who's actually going to listen, go ahead, message me, we'll chat. And he's like, okay, so what did I say? Or did I see? And I said, essentially a hairy hominid. That's as much as we've got right now. Beyond that,
anyone's guess.
Yeah, there are experts that, are willing to put their reputation on the line to say that there's too much empirical data. There is something to this phenomenon, but what it is exactly, we don't have enough to say conclusively.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Pat says if you don't take your Geiger counter into the woods, you'll never know if Bigfoot is radioactive.
And that's a joke, but it's true.
Yep. Yeah.
If you don't have something, you're not going to know, are you? I mean, and we kind of showed that in that last investigation when we were going through, and we were picking up some stuff on various pieces of equipment. It's just like if we wouldn't have had one, we would never have known. If we'd have had the other, we would have just assumed, oh, well, there's no EMF here, so everything's quiet. Meanwhile, the spectrum analyzer is going, bzz, off the charts. It's like, so there you go.
Oh, yep, there it is.
So this is one of the casts, and it is very indescript.
You need to take a marker and draw around that so you can make sure everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was one of the comments.
That's great. I love it. I love it.
This was poured just into a depression that was there, and this was, this is obviously not the full length of a foot, but there was also a bear. We cast a bear track right there in that same area, and we cast 2 tracks that looked like this. One of them's 100% a bear. I'm leaning on saying that this is even a bear, but it's just a big slide. It's a big scrape and slide because it was literally like 4 feet from the other track.
Well, it would make more logical sense that it is a bear because it was with the other one.
But the part that makes this not make sense is
the weird part.
Were radioactive.
That's the weird part.
These were radioactive, and the tracks ended right there around that bush.
And the funny thing is,
this went around that big shrub.
Yeah. Well,
disappeared.
Got sucked up by the aliens.
We don't know. We don't know what happened as far as that goes with that thing, or what that is, or anything more. But what we do know is before we ran off and said, "Oh, we have a radioactive track," we sent it off to multiple people and tried to figure out why we have a radioactive track.
All right, I just came up with a new theory for this. Okay,
go
something
ahead.
just popped in my head. Remember about a year ago when those test monkeys from the government escaped from that crash tractor trailer?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so one of them was radioactive,
yeah,
and it bit a bear, and that bear happened to make it over here, and that's what it was.
That's probably it, man. That's probably.
Does it have radioactive monkey superpowers now?
Probably.
Could be.
That's probably it, dude. That's It's
this is now a bear that can throw radioactive poo at you.
That's not a good bear.
That's its superpower.
Very bad bear right there. But
his
new
name is Who Flung Poo.
Yeah. Anyway.
Dad joke supreme.
Bye. See you guys.
I can't.
Brandon quits.
I can't.
Fishabilly says, have you established baselines for radiation?
Oh, thank God. A real question. Please read it.
Absolutely we have. We go out, most of our research areas, unlike a lot of, and I'm just going to say it the way it is, I'm not trying to people. We go into these areas that we investigate quite often. We don't just hit them one and done and leave. And we take baseline, and every time we go, we spend up to 2 to 3 hours sometimes just with machines out collecting data, just collecting data purely, not even looking for anything, just going out, making a baseline for all the radiation, making a baseline for what the EMF fields are going to be in that area. And then what we do, the way you establish a proper baseline is if you're getting elevated readings, then that's your new zero. If you're standard reading in that area, it's like a 1.5 milligauss.
Well, good example.
Down 5 is your zero.
Good example was down when we were doing the mannequin thing there.
Oh right? Yeah, micro.
The baseline was 1.2, 1.3, so that was our zero, 1.2 or 1.3 milligauss. And then when you started interacting with whatever was there, it shot up to 5. Yeah. There was no logical reason that thing would shoot up to 5. And then when was Adam had an interaction, it shot up to 7. Again, no logical reason that should happen. So yeah, when you know your baseline, that's exactly what you do. And the funny thing, you're talking about the baseline with the radiation, Joe. I remember after we got that, we drove all over that park for multiple, like a mile back and forth, just kind of getting, what is it here? What is it here? What is it here? And its base was between 15 and 17 CPM at the time.
And then the beauty about the radiation as well is USGS logs will actually have the baseline radiation already recorded for you. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is go and make sure that that's what your baseline is there. You use that information, say, oh, okay, if I'm going to go into this area and I'm
Bigfoot, Littlefoot made it. Bigfoot, Littlefoot made it.
Oh, hey, what's going on? And you're expecting to find some kind of readings in an area, you're going to see them. But if you go in there and your baseline, let's just say your baseline is like 21 CPM, but the 21 is your zero. But when you go into that area and you're actually getting readings that are into the 30s, then now you're in an elevated zone. You need to document that, because if it sustains that, if it stays there, then there is something probably in the ground or
something causing that.
Something causing it.
Yeah.
But if you're getting spikes where they just shoot straight up and then back
transient
down,
or anomalous is what we really look for, and then data log that. So Dawn asked a really good question.
Is it true that most folks who have repeated contacts weren't highly religious?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Never heard that.
How about you? You know, Anita? No.
No.
I would ask Brandon, but he's just a picture. So
Yeah. It's actually been the opposite of that. Based off
usually is. Yeah.
But back to collecting baseline information. That's we do thoroughly, and our devices are calibrated as well before we go. Actually, our Geiger counter is probably getting ready to come up here.
He's got a cat. Everybody.
Yep.
Your
cat got jealous of my cat.
Right.
Oh, I love the black cats.
Yeah.
I'm
not letting mine in.
I think he woke up and his tail got wrapped around my USB and unplugged my camera.
Oh, so that was actually happened. Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to get wrapped up in my headphones cords right now.
That's hilarious.
Apparently, thorium is common that a lot of mining operations just bury it again when they dig it up. Well, that would be interesting, but the readings at the mine near where we were, there's nothing. It's actually
we did check the mine. Yeah,
it's lower than the baseline, and also another thing too in a few of these areas that we've gone to that we've experienced high spikes of radiation. They're not there. Now, the plaster that we poured stayed at a higher level than base for like 6 hours before whatever was on it dissipated and was gone. But that area, we went back to multiple times. Nothing.
Yeah, you can go back there today. There's nothing.
Yeah,
and we've done it like 3 times now. But the weird thing about this, Joe, in my opinion, is that it served its purpose. Its purpose, in my opinion, is just to get us to say, hey, what is this? Why is this here? To make you think. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that is exactly what it seems to point at. That's what the data seems to point at, that there's something holding a red flag. And it may change that flag after you find it. Hey, somebody got it to work. Guitars and chains? Okay.
Wow. Brandon?
Guitar and chains,
there you go, man.
Craig. There you go, Brandon. Guitar.
Ding, 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 ding.
Chains.
All right. Guitar and chains, Craig. Go ahead. Find us on social media, Wild and Weird Radio, and send us your address. You're going to get a copy of Brandon's book. It's a bunch of short horror stories, and he's going to send that to you in hard copy signed.
Hey, Joe, I have a weird answer for you. Radionuclides used in nuclear medicine procedures have short half-lives. Technetium-99m, one of the most common medical isotopes used for imaging studies, has a half-life of 6 hours.
Yeah.
Huh. That's it?
So it's absolutely possible, right?
Right.
Absolutely possible that something with a very short half-life, possibly medical related, occurred in that area. So it might be that somebody from Game and Inland Fisheries was doing some work with a bear in the area, or a bear that had been recently treated for something was released in that area.
Conveniently.
Conveniently.
See?
Weird,
See?
but
I'm
possible.
one of those guys, and I checked those records.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Nothing?
wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I am with the DNR.
Sweet. I did some fish shocking with you guys years ago. That's
and
fun.
they were actually, the DNR is actually trying to track that one down, because he's the one that we captured some data on. He with the footprints rather, he is freaking huge, like
Nice.
larger than state record size, and they want to snag him and get him away from the park because he's also been causing some issues around with some houses, and they don't want somebody to shoot him because he is
Right.
he's such a huge specimen. And by the way,
See you, Adam.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that was a bear biologist, and he's out in Los Alamos now, but he was working at Virginia Tech for a while. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with bears. If I haven't told you guys the bear story at some point in time, I will have to tell you the bear story at some point in time.
oh yeah. Now, This bear, like I said, had he been collected, he wouldn't have been returned. He'd have been brought in and kept and probably taken somewhere. Patrick Noble's in here with us now. What's going on,
Patrick? I haven't seen you for a while.
I thought my girl was going to come up, but she didn't.
Welcome.
But we
So yeah, I mean, radiation aside, it's weird. It's weird, but it happens, and there are ways to try to figure out how. But the point is, we won't figure out how unless we actually go out and collect the data.
Now, I've got a hypothesis. I've got a really, really good hypothesis. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show before or if it's just too.
I don't know.
Bear ate some radioactive garbage?
That's my guess, right?
Well, we actually thought that's a possibility, but we'd had been looking for scat too.
Could have stepped in it.
But here's my theory, and like this is it's out there. So
bring it.
It's probably not what's going on, but it might be, because these tracks literally disappear. And I know a lot of people in the community, they'll talk about tracks, they'll find tracks, they'll go on, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared. And did they, or are you a trained tracker? Because there's been a lot of tracks that we have cast where I've found over a dozen, and they're going off into the woods, and I'm not casting all of them because they're just rubbish. They're turned over leaves, they're bent sticks, things like that. It's normal, 100% normal stuff, and it just walks off. But this bear literally could not have gone anywhere where we were because it was kind of muddy, and us not known about it. Like, this was a great spot to take a beginner tracker to be like, all right, where'd he go? Because it was easy to read. Now, let's look at this radiation stuff. And we're looking at energy displacement, the possibilities of the guitar chains, and we'll get to that in just a second. So with this thing, whatever this portal, some kind of teleportation, whatever, to move an object with that much mass takes a ton of power.
Yes, it does.
And there is a very, very good possibility that whatever that power is has a half-life, like what you were talking about. Like, I'm leaning into that half-life theory with certain radioactive isotopes only having a certain amount of like a very short half-life, like 6 hours. But this would have been way longer because we don't know. We were there 2 hours after the event happened, and then we were there for 3 hours, and then casting. And
so you look for something with a 10 to 12 hour half-life initially, and then narrow it down from there.
Right.
Exactly. That's going to be where you look at. And so something happened because this thing literally disappeared. There was a hillside that we were facing, that we were looking at, that was almost vertical. So much so that there's actually a rope hanging down
that Lisa
people use to like climb, and there, none of the leaves were disturbed there. This thing literally just disappeared. And this was a huge, massive animal that just boop. So whatever happened took a huge amount of energy to move this thing, wherever it went, whatever happened, and we were getting the residual. We detected what was left behind after this incident.
Yeah, well, I've said it multiple times. I'll say it again. A lot of times, I think when we're out there doing that, we're catching the ripples on top of the water. We're not catching the thing that's making it under the water. We're not catching the boat where it's invisible. But we're
only seeing the remains.
Yeah, we're seeing that's it, literally.
So Guitar Chain says, I've never heard your opinions on some Bigfoot's enthusiasts claiming that they're alien beings. What opinions do you guys have? Also,
well, this is going to take all night.
Right? We got a new topic. What opinions do you guys have? Also, if they are, wouldn't they give off a different radiation? It's very possible.
Open a can of worms.
That is a very possible thing.
Go ahead, Joe. You go first.
So, my opinion, we're dealing with multiple subjects. And here's why. I was forced to look at the data in its entirety without sanitizing or scrubbing through a lot of reports that I used to just listen to and say, oh yeah, those are cool stories. For example, all of Stan Gordon's work. You know, I read a lot of those things. I'm like, oh yeah, those are cool stories. But then when it started happening in front of me with those tracks, and then later on, subsequently down the road, about a year later, seeing a ball of light, then I've got to start looking at things differently. I have to. You know, I had to go. You can watch it. If you go back and watch the video that we made, you could see how irritated I was with what was going on, because I was now questioning. I was being forced to question everything at that point.
Yeah, he wasn't happy.
No, and I was uncomfortable. I was not happy.
Didn't want it recorded.
Yeah, it was. I was
but
just like,
that's what we do. That's what we do, and that's why I said that.
Sympathize.
That's what we do.
That's what happened to me. I completely sympathize with you.
Yeah.
I am right there. You're like, are you kidding me?
Right. That's exactly like when I'm pulling the cast out, and I'm like, man, like this. What is this? What is this? And so then having other stories, hearing other stories about, you know, there was one down in Fayetteville, West Virginia. It was an old one from back in the 60s. This hairy man steps out in front of a vehicle near the Bluestone Dam, and all of its hair raises on end like it's in a static field. The vehicle shuts down that the folks are in. You can hear the static popping and crackling. And then all of a sudden its hair falls back down and it walks across the road. Once it clears the road, all of a sudden car comes back on, everything's working normal again. So I had to start looking at those reports and actually taking them in earnest, you know, and not actually blowing on like, somebody's like seeing stuff. But what it boils down to for me, what I observed in my sighting back in 2001 was a real physical creature doing perfectly normal, natural things. But there are so many people who are experiencing this bizarre phenomena where they're seeing Bigfoot-like, and that's how we call it, because the lexicon is messed up. Everybody wants to go out and they attribute certain things to Bigfoot that are just weird, and they might be, they might not be, but we just refer to it as Bigfoot-like to categorize it, to put it in its own little compartment. And we investigate those. We do our due diligence, and we look at these things and we give it our best shot. But there are, in my opinion, two different phenomena going on in the same space. So the woods are way weirder than
Understatement.
Maybe.
Yeah, I use the term hairy hominid because essentially that could describe everything from the classic Gigantolopithecus type Sasquatch to Brandon, and it still works.
Yeah, that was good. That was great. Do you like that? I like that.
John Mullins, radiopharmaceutical TC99M. It is
half-life of 6.02 hours.
6.02 hours. Suggested time of detection is 3 days.
Yeah, well, I think you guys, I love to see this because you're actually thinking about this and you're trying to find answers as to why it's there rather than saying it didn't happen or you guys are nuts. So I'm going to tackle that thing because, you know, I can go with the two-thing theory. I really can. I can go with multiple theories, actually. I can go with the theory of whatever I want to go with, but here's what I know. The data says that there's something intelligent involved. I don't care if it's, you know, a hominid. I don't care if it's flesh and blood. I don't care what it is, but it's intelligent.
Thanks, Patrick. Check those out.
Hey, bud.
All right, so let me propose this to you guys. What started happening not long after you guys found that footprint?
Where,
cattle
bud?
mutilation started coming back.
Ew.
Well,
so maybe you found evidence that they also have been taking woodland creatures and not just cattle and horses. And
that's interesting that you bring that up because there was a mutilation that took place that we have not really talked about much publicly. Mm-hmm. And that was, yeah, you're right about that. And I don't know, man. I don't know what I feel about a lot of that stuff. I'll be honest with you, but I do know.
Remember the guys on Skinwalker Ranch? I think it was on Skinwalker Ranch where they had something happen to one of the cattle, and there was high radiation levels, well, higher than background.
That's right.
Around the area where it happened at.
Well, they had a cow that they felt was killed by an encounter with some kind of UFO.
Yeah, I had a picture of one over it.
Yeah, if you listen to the veterinarian talking and you understand a little bit about bovine behavior and biology, what happened isn't exactly what they're proposing happened. Something scared it to death.
Right.
But as far as, the UFO did this, no. Cattle are prone to developing pneumonia and other things if they're basically run too much or frightened. So they're actually fairly delicate, yes, high levels of stress. And so if you have a cow that's already a little off for whatever reason, the rest of the herd's going to leave it a lot of times because it's sickly. So if it's been stressed, if it's been run, if the rest of them could run and it couldn't, it's going to be terrified by itself. So yeah, the UFO probably spooked the herd. I mean, come on, you know that there's one of them, just like the Far Side cartoon, going by, whee, having a good time chasing the cows. So I'm sure that that's happened. I'm sure most of them went this way. One of them got this way, got absolutely terrified and scared itself to death, hyperventilated, whatever, developed pneumonia, and we lost it to that. So I'm not going to blame the aliens, if you will, for whatever did it. I'm going to blame normal biology, and I would be looking at what scared it, what caused animals to do what they did. And I would be going back another 6 hours on those tapes to try to find out what made this happen.
Where it started. Yeah, exactly. Right. So what we're saying is, regardless of what it is, something intelligent is at play. So I think Fishbelly, Bigfoot-like, screenshot the aliens give us, they consider Bigfoot a creature known to humans. Now, I've said this multiple times. Yes, I think that is a possibility as to what we are dealing with. Personally, if you go back and listen to some of our very, very early shows, I give one of my theories there. And, at the time, it seems funny, but now it doesn't anymore. And that is that we, not we, but the humans, those may be the humans out there in the woods before they got manipulated and changed into what we are today. For all I know, that those are our ancient ancestors out there in the woods. The Bigfoot people are what humans originated from, which is very possible. It's just a possibility.
That's one of the claims that Giorgio.
Yeah, he actually did say that. Yeah. Which made me very happy because it's like, okay, great minds. That's cool.
I mean, it's a possibility. There are so many different lines of human.
Yes.
Proto-humans and humans, the Denisonian, the Neanderthal, all the rest of them that we are close enough related to that we interbreed with. And I think that's why the little bit of DNA that we do have from Sasquatch comes up as partial human, partial unknown primate.
Exactly.
That's okay. What I think that should be our standard right there of when you have this combination of unknown primate and human, then whatever percentage it is, it's still going to fall into the hairy hominid category, because we have documentation going back as long as humans have been interacting with these hairy people of interbreeding and hybridization. So you're going to have different degrees of human DNA in each sample that you're going to get depending on its line. There's no way to say 10% equals human and 15% equals chimpanzee. It doesn't work.
No, you're absolutely right. This is the same reason we had the issues with the elongated skulls. That's the exact same thing. Oh, well, it says human. What does that mean? That's our biggest question. What percentage of human? What percentage of human? Yeah. I mean, that's the big question.
Yeah. Also, it's a question of how long it's been going on. Like, how long have humans been crossbreeding with them? Like,
well, apparently as long as we've known each other.
I believe that. Yeah.
I mean, every single culture has got stories of this. You can go all the way back to the stories of Gilgamesh, and we've got that going on there.
Yeah.
We've got the stories out of the Bible that are going back there. We have Egyptian stories. We've got Inuit stories. I mean, every culture's got it. And in America, when I was doing my research in America, it's just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently from the Midwest, well, not really the Midwest, from the West to the West Coast, snatching children is fairly common. So there was one story.
You're right. That was
that was true.
Common, not just children, but women with hair. Red hair is a trait that is throughout a lot of indigenous culture, and those were the women these things seemed to have a hankering for over
redheads
NW stories.
I can understand.
I'm so glad my hair turned this color.
There you go. It saved you.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the Bigfoot type people, we do have an announcement to make.
We do
have an announcement to make, and we have someone who is going to actually come on and talk a little bit about that announcement, right?
We do.
So,
right. Glenn, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
Good to have you here, man. It is
first hilarious.
We got to get you on a full episode soon, man.
He's coming on. He'll be on next week.
That's
week. Yep, that'll be next week.
To listen to you talk about hair color just cracks me up.
Because the way I say color, isn't it?
That and looking at your dome, I
know it's shiny, right?
We'll powder it up.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Anyway, for those who don't know, this is Glenn Adkins. He is a veteran researcher, Bigfoot researcher. He's been out there knocking on trees for how many years have you been knocking on the trees there, buddy?
30 to 35.
Yeah.
I've been interested my entire life, but I met Bob Morgan and started doing this stuff from about 1990.
Yeah. I got
this is the Glenn Adkins. Glenn Adkins is the guy who made the Squatch stick.
It's right here, brother.
And
so those are the little sluggers of Bigfooting, right?
Yes.
Pretty much, man.
That's what they are.
Finding Bigfoot carried him. All those anybody who has something to beat on a tree.
All the cool kids have.
All the cool kids have these.
Right.
And all I used was a rock.
No, this is original Glenn Adkins, creation right here, and there can be only one. That's it right there. That is the Squatch stick by the Squatch creator. The stick god himself has created this.
Stick god.
And we actually have it on pretty good authority that you're going to be coming and joining us at the Bigfoot workshop.
Can you confirm that? You can confirm it now, right?
Confirming and not denying. Yeah. It's funny you say. My daughter was with me today in the car, and I told her, "Yeah, we're definitely going." And she says, "Is the guy with the stick in the parking lot gonna be there?" And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah,
he was the most hilarious, and I'm like, yeah, Joe will be there.
Hilarious?
Well,
disturbing?
I told my wife, she said, "Mom, Dad should tell you this story because it's kind of inappropriate."
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I wish that the camera was rolling. That's all I wished. My greatest regret is that the camera was not rolling when that happened.
See his face when I rolled down the window.
Yes.
Hey, would you like to meet my 17-year-old daughter?
It was hilarious. Well, folks,
was red.
That's the kind of stuff that you're not going to get to hear anywhere unless you're actually there when it happens. So it's probably
tell the story to everybody there who wants to hear it. How's that? I'm sure ticket sales are going to.
That's fair.
Easy.
Let's do it.
I'm only going to tell the story at the workshop.
That works. That's exclusive right there. Is what that is. Glenn, we're going to be talking about a lot at the workshop, and what is really cool is you're going to bring some of those beaten sticks up. I hear.
I'm going to bring the sticks up and some other things, and we're going to try them out. And
cool.
I always end up giving one or two away. And,
or knocking somebody upside the head with it, something like that, right?
Well, once you've done them, you hit Joe a couple of times.
Right.
They don't work the same.
Right. They lose resonance.
They hit Joe in the head, and dents and cracks, and
it's all downhill from there. Yeah,
it's terrible.
So
but this is the reason. I mean, this is
improving
the
doubters' opinions.
Entertainment that you will get at the.
This is the entertainment side. We'll have serious side and comedy hour. This will be comedy hour.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, you're going to be talking a lot about, like we said, because we're going to talk about that next week too on your episode, the Bigfoot people. Whereas we're not going to be, we're going to look at it from a different light. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, everything that we had talked about before. We're going to bring it up and talk about it again.
Yeah.
Because something's different out there.
Yeah.
You talked about I heard you guys talking about lights and orbs, and, I'm going to bring a copy you have a copy of Bob's book that.
Oh, yeah.
Get the answers to a lot of your questions by reading this book.
Yeah, I got the book, but and finally read it after you pounded it into my head and told me I had to read it, and then I'm like, why didn't I read this sooner?
I just wanted somebody to go down the rabbit hole with me.
And it's like, this makes perfect sense to me.
Oh yeah, it sure does. It doesn't bring up any questions either, and answers everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I've got a copy of it. I've been digging into myself, and it's a really interesting book. It's one of these things where unless you've had some weird experiences, you're really not going to appreciate the book, I don't think.
You know what? And that was just it. When I got into it, I was expecting to look for any typical animal in the woods, get my sighting, hang out with the animals. And weird things started happening. Yeah. And the more weird things that happen, the more times you question your own sanity a lot of times. Yeah. And, well, look at what happened when we were out there for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, man.
As soon as we got started, besides the fact that Joe was there, it got really weird quick. And it wasn't supposed to.
No, because we weren't looking for that. We were just documenting you telling the story, and then all of a sudden we start seeing UAPs. We start seeing whatever that thing was that Joe decided to chase.
And for everybody who's listening, when we were seeing UAPs, we were actually capturing those on thermal. We didn't actually see them with our eyes.
Oh yeah, those were
recording
thermal.
Those on thermal, and we've actually shown those a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So these are.
Oh, I actually have it.
Here it is, right here, guys. That one is the Salt Fork, Ohio one. This is when we were with Glenn. And there it is, how similar that is to what we saw in Logan.
Those are only visible on thermal, by the way. And yeah, they've been vetted. They're not planes. They're not birds. So please, if you have anything else, feel free to throw it. But those have pretty much stood up at this point. We don't know what they are. But that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be delving into. This is going to be a workshop that you guys are absolutely going to love. Trust me. We're going to be talking about flesh and blood. We're going to be talking about the weirder side. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. What, Joe? You've got plaster. You're going to cast some stuff.
A plaster casting.
Yep.
Demonstration where everybody's going to get to make their own track.
Yep. You're going to do a scene analysis and data collection.
Yep.
And then
we put a lot into this.
There's a lot. There's a whole lot. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. So, I would suggest
it's from real official sources because we were voted the 2022 Bigfoot Researchers of the Year.
I always forget that. I do. Yep. I always forget that.
It was the thing.
Yeah, it is the thing. And that thing is what helped us get a lot of our equipment. So, bless you all and thank you for voting. But Glenn, we're going to get you back on here next week, Thursday, and we're going to do this incredible episode about all this stuff and prime everybody up for that workshop.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm jazzed up about it.
It's going to be fun, my friend. It's going to be.
I can't wait to get you down here in our forests, man. We've been talking about this for years.
I ain't scared.
Literally,
you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
I am. The snakes he talks about, you guys got some crazy things there, man.
There's a possibility. Like
I'll go in the woods looking for an 8-foot Bigfoot before I'll look for a 2-foot snake crawling around somewhere.
Watch out for them hoop snakes.
Oh gosh.
So, what was the name of the book again, Glenn? Could you tell everybody?
You know, I could if you didn't ask me that.
Right. Ron's probably got it hiding somewhere over there.
Probably
I can't find it. I had
you
it
have
right
it
here.
here, right in front of me. I'm sorry. And if you hadn't asked me, I'd be able to tell you.
Soul Snatchers.
Soul Snatchers. Yeah.
Soul Snatchers
It
is the
used to
name of
be
the book.
called Legend Quest.
Yeah, right.
The first, when he was first going to publish it through another publisher, and I have all the originals that were there. And then when he did finally publish it through the publisher that he has, it got changed to Soul Snatchers.
Soul Snatchers.
And I mean, it talks about everything from, the Bigfoot crossing the road, hair and blood and muscle, to some crazy things that happen in Tibet. Goes all over the world.
It's amazing. This book is amazing. And for all you people who think you know what Bigfoot is, please read this book. I'm not kidding, because I didn't do it. I didn't do it for over a year. And he's like, did you read the book yet? I'm like, no, not yet. Because, I'm like, what? It's Bigfoot stuff, And then I started reading, after I got it, I started reading about it. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is Bigfoot stuff. But this is the Bigfoot that I understand. This is the thing that's out there that I understand. It's what I've seen, not what, I can't call it 100% flesh and blood, because, I don't know that it is. Although the thing that we did see that night at your camp, I would consider that flesh and blood.
Yeah, that
possibly.
was solid. That was a big mass.
I would say solid, but here's my thing,
Especially
man.
The way the ground, the leaf, not leaf litter, but the
vegetation
was...
The whole thing, though, at this point with me is I don't believe anything. I don't even believe you're solid at this point. That's how confusing that some of this stuff can be. It's like, just because I see it, and, does that mean that that's what that is? So I'm to the point now to where I'm literally questioning everything. So
Lisa asked, where are you based out of? We're out of West Virginia. Ron, myself, and Brandon, and then Anita's in Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn's up in Ohio. The workshop, if that's what you're thinking of there with the workshop and where it's located, it's going to be in South Central West Virginia. So that's where we host all of our workshops in areas where we've actually conducted research in the past, and we've taken reports from. So that's one reason why we haven't gone out into Kentucky much, because there's been some people asking us to come do workshops over on the eastern side of Kentucky, but we haven't made it over there because, honest to God, I've gone over there on one sighting report, and that was it. I haven't actually spent much time over in eastern Kentucky, aside from work.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys had a crazy sighting at one of these things. It wasn't, with the thermal that you guys had.
Yeah, we actually
there that night with you and got COVID, so I was in the hospital.
That's right.
But this isn't some, and please don't. I know these guys that would never fabricate anything, and I refuse to be part of any fabricating of anything.
Yeah, same here.
But chances of us seeing anything, hearing anything, running into anything besides Joe in the woods is very, 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 very minuscule.
Extremely down to nothing. But, yeah, exactly.
But
that's what I thought, and I got surprised. So never thinking that.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? And that's the reason you go. I can guarantee you're not going to see it sitting in your bedroom, but your only chance is to be out there. And these guys take you to places that you have the chance to do that.
Yep,
it's a lot of fun.
We can guarantee an experience of education. We can guarantee a fun experience that you're never going to forget.
You will be talking about it for a very long time.
But what we can't guarantee is that there will be activity. Is it in a place where we've recorded? Absolutely. Is it in a place where we've taken a lot of track casts? You betcha. Can we guarantee anything will happen? No. Did something happen the last time that I was in this exact spot? Yes. And this has been a special place since. So, and we haven't gone back. This will be the first time for me going back to this exact spot in a long time.
Yep. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Glenn, I'm going to let you go ahead and hop off. Thank you so much for popping in.
Next week.
And yes, everyone be here because this is going to be an incredible conversation. We're going to go pretty deep. Probably we're going to talk about things with the whole Bigfoot legend that just get glazed over or ignored. Pretty much is what we're going to be doing, and it'll make you think. It'll definitely make you think.
Which is all we want to do. I tell everybody I am not going to try to convince you that there's a Bigfoot. I'm not going to try to educate you and tell you how to catch Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you think. That's all I want to do.
That's it. That's what we do.
You decide.
Here's the data. You figure it out for yourself.
Correct.
Yep. Exactly.
That's why we're friends.
And there's only a few spots left for this. Larry said that he's really excited about the workshop. I mean, we are too. We were bummed that the only one that we got to do was in October last year. So we're really excited that this year we're getting to do our summer one. And it's just going to be.
It's so much warmer and fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Like, I can't stress that enough. If nothing else, it will probably be one of the most fun things you get to do all summer.
Right.
It'll be close.
You'll get to meet new people. You'll get to meet people that have the similar interests as you. You'll get to meet people who've had experiences. You'll get to be in a place where you can share your experiences and not get laughed at because everybody who's going to be underneath this shelter is going to be in that camp. So, we're all going to be there listening. We're all going to be there having a good time. You're going to learn how to track. You're going to learn how to cast tracks. You're going to learn how to use equipment, and you're going to get fed. You're going to hear some amazing stories. You're going to get taught a lot of history, and it's so fun. I look forward to these workshops more than I do anything else through the whole year.
Yep. It's going to be a good one. Glenn,
take care, buddy.
I will see you next week.
Love you, man.
All right. Take care.
Thanks,
Later, buddy.
An absolute amazing individual, and we are lucky to have him in the family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So when we say that we have, our stuff peer reviewed, that's one of the peer reviewed.
Yeah.
By the way,
Glenn is one of the people that we send stuff to, but because there's nobody else around us that has been doing this as long as he's been doing it, between him and Russ Jones, that we feel are some of the best sources to send stuff to.
And Glenn has seen weird stuff.
Yeah, Glenn,
and just like
stuff, and he's seen flesh and blood stuff,
and just like you, he didn't like it. He didn't like it, and you'll get to hear that whole thing later. And really, that's how we started talking, just because of that. He didn't really.
For me, I was working with William Durangus, and I was basically doing research for him because I had access to a primary folklore source. And so I was doing, historical research, and I was logging different sightings and recordings. And then what happened to me was I was out testing equipment and got surprised in a site that should not have had anything in it at all. And I continued to do that research until the gas prices got too much because it was an hour drive. And by the time I got back, we were going to fire.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of watching the area come back. I don't know if my so I had a Sasquatch that I regularly interacted with that I just called Knocker, and I don't know if it's going to come back or not.
Oh.
But that was fun.
Hey Anita, will you tell that historical encounter that you told me about a few days ago about that sailor?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a number of stories about a guy and a Sasquatch having relationships and having a child. And I started tracking them back to earlier tellings. And they'd always say, well, this person over here told it, or this person over there told it. And I finally managed to track it back all the way to the Outer Banks, North Carolina, Virginia area, shipwrecked sailor. And basically, if you've not been to the Outer Banks, I'm sure you guys have, but they're pretty substantial. And the sailor encountered a female Sasquatch, and being a pre-colonial age sailor, I'm sure he thought she was absolutely gorgeous. So they ended up in a relationship, and there was an offspring produced by it. They communicated primarily through hand gestures. She didn't like being near the fire. Apparently, that's not something they like at all, but she did appreciate some of the cooked food, not too cooked, just warmed. These were little notes the guy had said. And when about a year after he had been wrecked, when his friends, it was a whaling crew, when they came back around, they discovered he was still there and they tried to rescue him. And he tried to get her and the child with him, and she would not go, and she would not let him take the child. And so he ended up getting on the boat, and I'm calling it a child, it was a baby, little boy, got it on the boat with his friends and the other sailors, and he was sailing away, and she came out holding the baby up and screaming and howling, and he wouldn't come back, so she literally ripped it in half, threw it down, and took off. And that story is where I was working at the time. I was a student at Ferrum College in Ferrum, Virginia. And,
oh man, I got a lot of history at Ferrum.
Yeah. Ferrum, I could tell you some stuff too.
Yeah.
But
sure.
They have the Blue Ridge Folklife and Farm Museum. And in the 1920s, a gentleman went essentially through the Appalachia with a tape recorder and recorded all of these incredible mountain stories. And so, this was the beginning of Facebook. I was commuting an hour to work, or an hour back and forth to this class. I was working full-time at night. I was taking 12 to 16 credit hours a semester at the college. So I was like living between two places, and I would just stay on campus. And so I started playing with this different social media stuff. And my friend had a Bigfoot encounter locally. And so I just randomly filled it out on the Blue Ridge Bigfoot Research Organization page that William ran. And he got back in touch with me and asked for more details, and we started talking. And then when I told him where I was and what I could do, he had me start doing research for him. And my first encounter with a Sasquatch was one of those that you can hear it, but you can't see it. And it was not good. And I think because it was one of those woo-woo kind of reports that he had advised me not to pay attention to, he was really suspect about a lot of things after that. And I was like, okay. But yeah, that research led to an interest in tracking these things down, because I've been in the woods my entire life. I've done survival training. I've been, I've worked with animals. I'm just, this is my home, being outside. Mm-hmm. And so being in the woods with something that calls I don't know, that I can't see, that is right in front of me. No, that doesn't work. I was not a happy camper.
Oh, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, have I told you that story, Brandon? Have you heard what happened?
I don't think so. Not that one.
I got flanked by someone.
Yeah.
That was not cool. I'm by myself in the woods at a biological research site. Mm-hmm. So it's, not the kind of place people are goofing off at. And I'm testing out recording equipment, but I'm also taking some photographs of unusual rock and tree structures to add to a report that William had to kind of bait people away from the hot site he was working on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if he was going to go for it or not, but I was using it as an excuse to play with the equipment. And I had been in town on business, so I was not dressed to be hiking. I mean, I am in cute little kitten boots with no soles, little heels. I'm in dress pants. I've got a beautiful crew neck, turtleneck sweater on. I've got my favorite Sherpa coat on, my big hat on, and I'm, not hiking. Okay, this is in town. This is not the kind of site that should have anything on it at all. It used to be a farm, and about 25, 50 years before, they started making it into this research station. So there's farms that kind of come down to it. So it's kind of like a peninsula of farms poking into town. And I'm just, the whole way in, I'm seeing stuff. I'm seeing the tree structures. I'm seeing the signs, and I'm like, la, la, la. Not buying it, not even. And I just go up to the top. It's in the winter. And by the time I'm up on the top, the elevation is enough that I am on ice that I can't break.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've tried to go all the way around the loop. I can't do the upper loop with it. I can't break the ice. So I tried to do the lower loop. That area is melting. So 2 inches down below the mud is ice, and I'm sliding through mud. So I'm like, okay, we're done for the day. So I head back to the trailhead. And as I'm coming up from the area where the ice is that I couldn't break through, and I'm not a lightweight. I'm hearing something stomp, 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 stomp coming towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, okay, is there a ranger up there snowshoeing? What is this? And I'm listening to stomp, 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 stomp. And it's about 50 feet. This is the nearest juncture, like almost a figure eight, by the trailhead. And it does come together where it goes to the lower section, which is a deer management area. So I'm still in the upper section where it's only about 50 feet to the other side of the trail. And there's clearing between me and there. A few trees, none of them more than 30 years old, and some brush. And I'm looking over there and I don't see anything. And it's just donk, 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 donk. Nothing. And I should be able to see it. Everything is white and gray, the normal winter colors. Nothing. So I do the smart thing. I drop right to a crouch from where I'm at, turn my recorder on. I record for a second, and then I very quietly whisper into it, I don't know if you can hear this, William, but something's walking this way and I can't see it. And it's literally at this point directly across from me, and it stops. Again, I can't see it. It's right there. I can hear where it has stopped. And then something about 10, 15 feet over here on my left in the deadfall makes this little coughing noise. It's a little bit like a tiger chuckle. It's like,
oh, it's trying to distract you.
Something to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Something to the other side of this pathway responds. So there's something in front of me, something here, something here. I'm like, And I said, William, I'm flanked. I'm out. Stood up, spun around, flipped the camera up, still recording over my shoulder, and went right down the hill because I'm not stupid. And I'm like, this is wrong. I know every sound that everything makes out here. And I've done survival training. I have been backpacking all over. That doesn't happen. And I can't explain it.
It sounded like they were maybe about to practice some pack hunting skills on you.
Yeah, and I wasn't good for that. And in my years' experience with that site following that, whatever was up on top and what was on the lower level behaved differently. The ones on top acted like jerks. And they're the ones that would throw small rocks at you, little golf ball sized rocks, always trying to get you to look up, come up here, just be annoying. And I throw rocks back at them and say, shut up. But on this one curve in the trail, there was a spot where I was below the ridge, and I decided to try some wood knocking to see what would happen. And I thought maybe I can get them to pop their little heads up over or whatever. And I knocked, and something far off to the side responded. And so that started this thing with me and Knocker going back and forth, and every single time, didn't matter when I went, for the next 4 years, pretty much, I could go out there and I could knock at that spot. And after a minute, I would hear a response, and it would come closer and closer, and the thing would never come close enough to be seen. And it could knock up to a pattern of 4. If I did 5 beats, it couldn't go higher than that. But it could do any pattern I did if I did it up to 4. And it would just repeat it. And we could do this all day. And it got so frustrating because it's right there. If I go down that way, it stops. So it will go away if I go down the hill towards it. And it won't come closer to me. So, we did this. I would always leave stuff out for it. And then a couple years ago, I went up there to see how things were going. And it was overrun with trail joggers. And there was just the remnants of the forest fire from the year before.
It sounds like you might have encountered, see, like the way a lot of researchers think it is now is there's different roles in the family groups. Like there's some who are posted and they're like watchmen.
Oh, I don't know. I just got the feeling that Knocker was female.
Could have been. Yeah. Well, some people think that they're there to alert the other ones whenever there's threats nearby, like people. And then there's some that are like foot patrolmen that'll go and try to scare them off by chasing them and throwing stuff at them and whatnot.
I could see that if they operate as a family unit. And the research I did never had more than an adult and 2 juveniles. There never seemed to be larger groups than that. I mean, I've heard, people talk about seeing elderly ones, but I've never actually found a report like that. So
I remember one report that I heard where I think it might have been oh Lord, what was that one out in Oklahoma that's infamous? What's that one called, Joe? You know what I'm talking about. That guy was harassed on his farm in Oklahoma.
Are you talking about the one that was near the military installation and then things like went crazy and he got attacked?
Yeah, like they attacked his farm on a regular basis. Hanokia, that's it. That one. So that guy, he claims that at one point the whole family unit moved in, and in the center behind all this, the sentries that they have is the actual family group itself, where it's like the babies and the alpha male all hang out. And if you ever get that far into the family group, they supposedly would just try to kill you.
cool.
So
I don't know. I've not encountered that. What I've encountered is more along the lines of groups of bachelor males and isolated females. I had a friend of mine for many years. We had she had a group, Mary Green, and I have some of her books. And she had all kinds of interesting theories, and we would just talk for hours about all that stuff.
I think it's a lot different than like the way that it works with like lion prides, because you'll get roving groups of like juvenile males who all hang out together. They're looking for their own pride to join and stuff like that. They'll hang out and harass the other prides and whatnot.
Well, what I've seen in the research, one of my favorite ones that I tracked, there is a white Sasquatch, and it's out West Coast, I think Southern California, maybe now, if I'm not mistaken. But it has a club foot. Mm-hmm. And what I did was I ran across these stories. Jeffrey Meldrum talked about this club-footed foot tracks he's found. And I would find references to this white Sasquatch with a limp or this white Sasquatch with a weird track out there. And then when I'd look further back on just keyword searching white Sasquatch, I could find earlier tellings. And from the pattern, it went from the California area up more towards Montana, then down through Missouri, across Ohio. I think there was a little bit in Illinois, and eventually down through the Appalachia till there is a story in Tennessee of a female carrying a white offspring with a twisted foot. So I think these things have a tremendous range until they finally find a spot to settle. I thought that we had, my belief is that they are different species and that we have different groups just because of the physical descriptions and behavioral descriptions for all these different areas. But that one alone of this juvenile that's tracked going all the way around the northern part of the United States and ending up on the West Coast as an adult is like, okay.
I don't think that's too much of a stretch, because we know mountain lions have a range that can go like 400 miles in diameter.
Yeah.
So if you're like the alpha predator in that area, else.
And Brandon, that's just a female home range. It's not accounting for a lone male straggler.
Yeah.
Lone males are known to travel from out west all the way up into New Hampshire and back.
Mm-hmm. And if we're looking at a Sasquatch, if we're looking for someone that's looking for a partner, a clubfoot and white fur is going to put it at a disadvantage, depending on how these things see that kind of relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And so it may be looking for an available female for a very long time, and it might cover a very large amount of area looking for that.
Yeah, or maybe some groups won't accept it because it looks so weird.
Yeah.
Because of the white
so by itself.
Now, James brought up a question. Has anybody heard the whistling scream, kind of like a kettle boiling? And I don't think that that's a scream personally. I have heard that in the woods, and I think that's just a whistle with a lot of lung capacity behind it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what it sounded like to me. I have heard high-pitched screams, but this was the kettle boiling was the closest thing I could describe what I'd heard.
It's like when people say they hear an 800-pound owl.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Well, sometimes it's not an owl, so there's that.
Yeah.
And then James says also, I've seen a predator-like thing moving through the trees here in West Virginia, and that was mentioned. What brought that on was Craig had mentioned that it kind of sounded like the predator, like the way when you were knocking, and this thing was getting closer and closer. You could hear it coming closer. But then James brought up that he had seen a predator-like thing moving tree to tree here in West Virginia, and we're actually putting together a regular recorded show on this, and it's a phenomena that has been given its own name called the Glimmer Man. If you're not familiar with it, go look it up.
Yeah.
Where you'll see this like weird mirrory silhouette of invisibility, kind of like the Predator in the movies, and people have said they've seen these things. Now, I've never seen it, but I've heard multiple reports. So, James, you're not alone here in West Virginia either, because a few of the reports came from the Monongalia Forest, came from down around Chief Logan, and then I'm not sure where yours took place, but there's at least now a third.
Mine's down here in Southwest Virginia.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
But that's the whole thing. If there's not something to their fur that works optically the same way that owl feathers work auditorially, that there's some kind of something to it, but I've never seen anything in the fur and the hair samples.
Right. The hair samples that we've seen, they all look like really, really coarse, really thick. They do have a transparency to them, but you're dealing with a technology almost, I think, with these Glimmer Man reports. Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me.
Craig said he hadn't heard the squealing whistle noise, but he has heard chatter and knocking.
Chatter. We've heard the chatter.
Yep.
Multiple times, actually, at this point.
And Craig had also mentioned up above earlier that he'd like to come out with us at some point, especially having a background with crime scene investigation, etc. And that'd be great. The one thing that I can bring to the table in that regard that we do with the workshops, because I know that comment was back regarding the workshops.
Well, he can't make it. He'll be
he'll be
songwriters
recording studio. Is that I've been trained in crash retrieval recovery by the Air Force, so that's the same kind of principle that I use to teach these folks out at the workshops and how to survey an area, what to look for.
He retrieves crash test dummies that fall out of weather balloons
for the Air Force.
Just saying, he does.
My background is more like lead investigator for criminal stuff, So security and dispatching. Yeah.
James again says, okay, question. These things were a legend, old folks tell. Now they seem common. Why is that?
That's a good question.
That is a really good question. I think
it's just because people aren't afraid to talk about it anymore.
And that's the good answer, because that's exactly what it is. We've seen a huge peeling back of the veil, and the stigma has been kind of lifted on a lot of things at this point. And, social media, shows, all that.
But you also have to look at some of those things as well as a negative item.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Be real.
You do, but either way, it got us talking about it.
It did.
And there's more people talking about it now than there's ever been. I mean, so much to the fact that, I never in a million years would have imagined that I would go out in public and talk about some of the stuff I'm talking about. And moreover than that, the people would want us to do this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when I was telling you about the UFO story with me and my mom, and it's like, yeah, well, that's just a experimental Air Force craft, and we're not going to talk about it.
Right. Yeah. We're done with that. By the way, don't shine lights in the sky. Things like that, right? I mean, okay, why? We don't talk about that.
We did that in my astronomy class, Q-beam straight up there. I'm sure somebody's come back. I mean, look, we sent Voyager out there with that message with our address saying, come visit. Why are you surprised? Why are we surprised when they show up?
I know. I don't understand.
And they're just upset that we're wearing clothes.
Seriously, they can't. Where's the one with the 4 arms and the? They go over there and they look at the ancient Indian stuff from my dad's side of the block, and they go, "Well, y'all look like that. What'd you do? Cut them off?"
See, what they should have done? They should have sent up a couple drops of acid, and then they should have sent Dark Side of the Moon.
Well, they did send some of the Dark Side. They actually did send some Dark Side. That was on the gold record.
How do you know that the LSD would have affected them the same way that it would affect a regular human?
Yeah, exactly.
Might make them like it might be their version of a berserker, or it could just kill them. So back to that question, though, like the connectivity of social media, the abundance of paranormal content that exists, And these things, to us, we call them legend and folktales, but
that's only because they're older than our grandparents.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if we look into the historic record, we see a whole lot of writings about it. For example, Teddy Roosevelt is one of the most prominent people who have written about the wild man. And it wasn't a hairy man. He wrote about a Bigfoot-like creature, Daniel Boone, things like that. Those weren't folk tales. Those weren't, they were legendary people who had bizarre experiences and they recorded them. And
I mean, unless you were making it a point to do what Charles Fort did and have a host of friends scanning every single newspaper you could possibly get your hands on, you wouldn't know how common it was.
Exactly. Right. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
And you can go to your libraries and you can do scans on words and you can find a lot of these things, and you could tell that they weren't. There are folk tales and there are legends about these things, about certain phenomena, but you can look them up in the newspaper and they were happening and they were being reported on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, okay. So you guys remember Paul Dillinger from the Whitfield UFO conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he and my husband actually wrote a story that I did the research on that was based on a series of, it's actually a little novella they did, but it's based on an actual real series of newspaper reports of this individual with this flying airship, this UFO, that kept being broken down coming from the West Coast to the East Coast. He was taking it to some investor in New York, and it was always breaking down. And people were like seeing this guy with his amazing glowing craft and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I just need to, do you have any of this stuff or whatever? I just need to tweak a few more things and then I'll be out. And they tracked him for like a summer coming across. And of course, the guys turned around and turned that into a great sci-fi story and had fun with it and went steampunk on it. But it really was news reports. Yeah. And you can roll back and look these things up and go, holy crap.
That's right. It's out there.
So Pat says, why has no one ever been able to pull any remains out of the woods? Plenty of sightings and stories, but rarely any video or photographic evidence and no bones of Bigfoot. That is the biggest.
That's one of the biggest questions.
Biggest things that skeptics will throw on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And to which my response currently is, we just discovered an entirely new human species based off a pile of bones that was in a box labeled Neanderthal.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say we don't have those bones cataloged away somewhere? Mm-hmm. Because they were a mistaken identity. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not one of these people that think that these creatures are in the 10, 12, 14, 15 foot range. What I saw was not that big. You know, the three entities that I saw that I, looking at things now, I think we're in three different stages of life. The biggest one was roughly around 7.5 feet tall, somewhere in that 6-inch margin of error, but was not, it was as wide as a refrigerator, but it was not, this 12-foot creature that some people will describe. Now, if anybody wants to just see how preposterous a 12-foot entity in the forest is, just go stand beside one of those skeletons that's going to be in Home Depot in about a week. And just see that, you're setting with the crown of your head, me at 6 feet tall, the crown of my head is in the girdle of its hip. So just, keeping that in mind.
Yeah, that's a fairly common thing, because people assume, like, they go, okay, well, I'm 5'5". And so they assume that this is 5'5".
Right.
They're not taking into account this whole area, taking it up there. And so they're used to whatever they think is just below their eye level, or their eye level is what they know is their height.
Yep.
And it's like, no, there's more. There's more of you up here.
Yeah.
So,
and
we're not even looking at the possibility of fur and muscle mass.
Right.
I mean, I've got a feral cat on the porch right now. It looks like about a 15, 20-pound bowling ball. She's maybe 5 pounds soaking wet. It is all hair.
All hair.
Yep. And it's like, how do we know? I mean, I know that the hairs that William got, they were all about yay big.
Yeah, that seems to be consistent with Tom Shea's findings too. They're about in that 4 inch.
Inches terminal edge.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that they fade to a red in winter like most dark-coated creatures do. The West Coast ones, there was a particular variety I don't hear about anymore, that those are the ones that spoke one of the native trade languages and were notorious for stealing smoked salmon. But they fit the description of Australopithecus beautifully. Or not Australopithecus, Gigantolopithecus. I can't speak tonight.
But now, speaking of Australopithecus, a lot of these Bigfoot reports fit the Boise eye, Australopithecus boisei or robustus, whichever categorization you want to put that one.
Yeah.
They fit that bill. It's just that boisei was only around 5.5 feet tall.
So why can't you cross two of them and get a 7 foot tall?
Right.
And we had people in Argentina. There were tribes where the people's average height was 7 feet.
That's true.
So it's perfectly normal in the human genome to do this. And we can breed true for height. I mean, look at the Swahili.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who naturally are genetically predisposed to height. So why can't we have some of these tribes of hairy hominids that are prone to height?
I'm 6'3" and I'm the runt in my family.
Let me read you something I just found. I went on newspapers.com and just typed in wild man with a space for any newspapers in West Virginia. And here's an article that popped up. This is from Hinton Daily News, January 31st, 1907.
Well, just for a pause real quick. Hinton Daily News. It's in Hinton, West Virginia. Our farm is 4 miles from Hinton. Go ahead.
Well, this story isn't in Hinton, but it's in that newspaper. So it says, hairy wild man is captured in Mexico. So it says a wild man was detained in Huasteca. He was transferred to a museum. Doesn't say what museum, but they found rags, bones, and fruits and vegetables that the thing had dug up. They said it was covered in thick, long hair, and the article was trying to say that it was human, but the people who found it said it wasn't human.
That's kind of the argument in the Bigfoot community.
Yeah.
Are these things human or are they?
But during that time period, it was fairly common to sell people for freak shows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And hirsutism is actually not uncommon in certain family lines in Mexico and parts of South America.
That's
so it could
too,
very well be an abducted individual that they were trying to sell.
So James's Glimmerman sighting happened up in Braxton County over on Route 15 near Sutton Lake. Then Tony said, I think it's just that there are more humans now encroaching on previously wild territory.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real possibility as well.
I can't remember if it's in Tennessee or North Carolina. I think it's... See, my friend who's the folklorist lives in North Carolina, but there is an area where they had basically a very feral population of people, a lot of them involved in mining and stuff like that. And when they were trying to, I guess, do some kind of census or whatever, a whole bunch of them just refused. And basically, the description is people that have gone feral, for lack of any other way to describe it, and kids that have been abducted from the area, and there's like concern about these people, these woods people, and they're accepted as being basically I won't call them the inbred cannibal horror movie people, but something similar. And I'll see if I can track that down for y'all, but it's one of the local warnings that there are people that live in the woods that shouldn't even be considered people.
Yeah.
So we do have feral humans out there.
Mm-hmm.
So Craig said, Ron, do you remember all the stuff we heard in the woods in Clearview as kids? I wish we knew then what we know now.
Well, we grew up in the woods. I mean, there was stuff out there all the time. Now, I never saw a Bigfoot. I'll just make that clear to you. Other things, but not Bigfoot.
Yeah. James says, when I was young, I spent a lot of time in the woods hunting and foraging. Wasn't no sign of them then. And that's kind of their point. Like, the whole no sign left, because that's when I had my sighting, was when I was out hunting and foraging.
Yep.
And that's when my sighting.
But James also follows up by saying my dad was born in 1906, used to talk about boogers. Never knew he meant Bigfoot until about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, this is it. I mean, it's there. You just have to look for it. It is there, though.
Yeah, we have Norton, Virginia, just down the road from me, and they've actually got a section of the community there that's registered as a Bigfoot preserve.
Yeah, there's a cafe down there that used to host a event.
Yeah, I saw pictures for that. But it's funny because wood booger is not very common, but I have heard woolly booger. So like we would talk about the woolly booger up here, and we're only like an hour and a half away. So the report that I was giving William was on what a friend of mine called the Bedford County woolly booger, and there's several different stories involving the Bedford County woolly booger, and the funniest one of them is the woolly booger that my friend shaved. Which that one was a cryptid that people were seeing that was some kind of gray and reddish monstrosity. It was huge but silent. You would see it crouch down, and if you tried to go to it, it would just drift away very quickly, or it would crash through the brush. And sometimes it would make a sound, but often it was quiet, and nobody could really get a good description of it, and they were all terrified of it. And lo and behold, it turned out up in Bedford, they had a Noah's Ark exhibit, and a sheep and a goose got left behind in the old manger that was a cliffside, like a little cutout into a cliff. And so this sheep had gone for 5 or 6 years uncut and was still living there with its friend the goose. And people would occasionally see this massive mound of grayish, reddish stuff and didn't know what it was as it would move through there. And they had built up this horrifying story of this monstrosity. And so when it was finally trapped, my friend was a big cat rehabilitator and worked with a lot of crazy wildlife and stuff. So she was also a vet. She got to shave it. And, you know, she's gone now, but I was going to get her a T-shirt that said, "I shaved the Bedford County woolly booger." Wow. Yeah, the mountain people, or well, I won't say the mountain people, but the folks around here talk about if you go far enough back in the hollows where the woolly booger's at, nobody who has ever seen it has survived, that it will rip you completely apart, that the people who have been found, there's claw marks 12 feet up in the trees, and the tracks they find aren't bear tracks, and the parts they find was not damage done by a bear. But I've not encountered a recent story of that. Not in 15 years, 20 years.
So Craig brings up a good point here, and based off, because I've been around Paul White a few times myself. I've actually got to feed the guy once. He says he's been around Paul White, aka the Big Show or the Giant from WCW days. I believe most Bigfoot are in his general girth. This was before he lost all of his weight, when he was around 7'2" and 520 pounds. Yeah, I'll agree with that assessment. But if you remember, in his back when he was doing freaking the backflips, the
moonsaults.
The moonsault, that is the body type of the biggest one that I saw. Was similar to him in mass. Now the arms were longer, so the arms were hanging longer down below his knees. But as far as the wrap around the chest and the way he was just kind of a human box with legs, that is pretty much it. I think I'm glad you brought that comment up. Sarah says, "Have you seen the video a man took of a Sasquatch coming out of a portal? He put a camera on his backpack facing behind him, hoping to catch whatever kept following on the trail." I have not seen that one. Sarah, if you could throw a link in the comments or send us a link over on our Facebook, that'd be
I've
cool.
heard about it. I've not seen it.
Then
I found a really interesting one from the Charleston Daily Mail back in 1936 from my little search I did. If you want to hear this one real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So it says, "Nothing grows quite so fast as a story, the kind of story that we call a rumor. A strange, startling scream had been heard in the woods in various parts of the neighborhood in which Farmer Brown's farm was situated. Farmer Brown's boy himself had heard it when he spent a night alone in the sugar camp in the Green Forest, wherever that is. Had but one person heard it, not much attention would have been paid to the story, but several persons heard it on different nights in wildly separate places. It was a scream no one in all the neighborhood had heard before, and there was a strangely human sound to it. Everyone agreed on this. So what does that sound like?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, cougars make that sound. Foxes
Coyotes
can make that sound. Coyotes can make that sound.
Yep. There's
lots of moonshine and coyotes.
There are so many animals that are so frequently confused for Bigfoot calls.
Coyotes.
Well, what's funny is back then,
foxes.
if they couldn't explain it, they just assumed it was a crazy person in the woods.
Yeah. Or they called them haints as well.
Haints.
Haints I'm used to.
Haints.
Yep. Haints,
I
omens.
like how it was so common for them to have crazy people run off in the woods that this was just a general thing.
The only reason I've not run
normal.
off is because it's socially unacceptable for me to return if I ever choose to.
It was normal back then. It was good times. If you didn't feel right in society, if you just had a little anxiety going on, you just ripped your clothes off, ran through the woods. Someone just said, "Oh, that's old crazy ho and ho, whatever his name is, and he's a wild man."
Yep, he's gone feral. There we go.
I'm not kidding. That literally did happen a few times. Yeah. And then they would live like that out in the woods, survival style and going feral.
A hermit up in New England, and I forget where he finally ended up passing, but he was this guy that always wore scraps of leather. His whole outfit was homemade.
Yep.
And
the leather man. Yeah.
Everybody has one. Everybody has one. I'm telling you. Hey, Ashley's here. Ashley, welcome aboard.
Yay!
So Pat said there are too many people looking for Bigfoot to have not found more physical evidence than we are currently seeing, unless they can't.
Now, okay, so what's funny?
How do you know they don't evolve and age to a certain point? And once they get to, say, 100 years old,
hey, we don't.
And
that's the great thing. What's really funny is people don't know. Pat's probably the biggest skeptic in the room. And he's looked at the data over the years now. Unfortunately, he's been forced to look at the data over the years now.
Yeah, it's something and he didn't even sign up for it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But, if you look at the data logically, you start asking questions like this. You really do. And you think, oh, well, they're being crazy. No, they're not being crazy at all. They're asking a logical question. If these things have been shown to literally evaporate, if we have seen tracks that go out and just simply disappear, well, something's going on.
Here's one I just found.
But the thing with the tracks disappearing, most oftentimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
No, in a couple rare cases, they do.
In the snow, they do. And that's been noted a few times, honestly. So
they can't transcend realities.
What I'm saying, exactly. And that's where Pat's at with this as well. He's opened the door to the possibility. And that's what it has to be. You have to have the ability to at least look at that door and acknowledge that door.
In the magic and occult world, that is a learned skill, that you should be able to attain. I mean, you can hear about it in Chinese mythology and pretty much every culture that still has a functional magical system.
Eastern, yeah.
Any of it. It's going to tell you that there is a point at which you transcend, whether you're working with hermetics and you're talking about all the different states of being and transcending out of them, or if you're going to just shifting reality, like all the little TikTok witches that are shifting reality. Don't get me started on witchlets. But wow, who's to say that this isn't a skill that's legit?
That they can do.
If we want to say that the Bigfoot is legit, why can it also not be more shamanically and spiritually evolved than us and be able to shift realities and walk right out of this one when it's sick of it?
And a lot of First Nations tribes do mention that it could walk between worlds.
And when Glenn comes on next week, I have a feeling we're going to touch a lot of what you just said. Because that is a fact.
When it comes to evidence, though, when it comes to physical evidence, the only place that you're going to see some of this stuff that most people get their physical evidence from is coming from TV.
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to shows around people that Ron and I are around all the time, where they're seeing these private collections of air samples and track casts, like, for example, what Tom Shays collected.
Right.
And
yeah, they're not going out in the woods and checking it out themselves.
Right. And there is a mountain of evidence that simply has not been looked at because a camera isn't being pointed at it.
Agreed.
And so there is a ton of evidence that is there that just simply isn't being observed because either the people don't have the means to get it observed, or they're just not interesting enough to have a camera pointed at them.
I mean, I would love to know what happened to the really disgusting hair mat that William had. You know, some of the evidence that he had from this one hot site, there was something that was pushing 8 feet that was Irish setter red. And there were images of like the back of its head and other things. And he got this hair mat about the size of the palm of my hand that was so utterly rank that when they opened the Ziploc bag, it cleared the room. And this thing was foul. But that was one of the things that they got the mixture of human and primate DNA from. And it was, part of it was sent to a lab. Things were sent different ways. After William died, I can't find anybody that took over, the evidence. There's no chain of custody. There's nothing that I can find. I mean, people are still doing the work, but not the same at all. What happened? Where'd it go?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's been samples that have been sent that just turn up missing. There's been fecal matter that's come back with like partial human genetics, and a lot of the stuff just gets pushed under the rug because it comes back with the excuse of human contamination, which I know that's a huge problem. But
if they even bother looking at it in the first place.
If they even bother looking at it in the first place. I know some of the folks who have collected this data personally. I know how they collected the data because they were also part of my formation as a Bigfoot researcher. And they helped me learn how to collect some of this stuff and what to do with it. And I know how they collect their data, and I know it's forensically sound, and the contamination would have only happened at the lab if it happened. So
and that can happen on purpose,
part
by
human,
the way.
Right.
That means these things are part human.
Right. I fully believe that because they can crossbreed with humans, they have. And they may not willingly or know that what they're doing is preventing a genetic bottleneck. But that, makes sense to me. I mean, these things would raise human children. They would snatch human children. They would find human partners. So why wouldn't they have descendants? I mean, the whole Alma thing in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
That story is very sad because they said that the people that when they did the DNA testing on the descendants of the Alma, the people who claim, I'm stronger and my muscles are more powerful, and these guys do appear to be much more powerful in a lot of ways, it comes up as sub-Saharan DNA, which indicates that this might have been a lone black woman adventuring. But that doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit the physicality unless they were lying about how she looked for the sake of justifying how she was treated, unless it is a Sasquatch and that's how the DNA presents, or at least that particular line. So I think the Alma type is different and more closely related to, I should take that back. I think that the Yeti is more closely related to some of the ones that we have here, some of the shorter, more aggressive block ones.
So one thing I find interesting is that you speak of the connection there. I think our ancestors saw that too, because like in our area, they call them boogers, wood boogers. But also that same term can be used for outcasts, like people who live on the fringes of society, like the mountain people, the holler people as we call them nowadays.
Yeah.
Back then they were totally isolated and they were their own little community and they were shunned from the bigger communities. So it's interesting that they would use the two terms simultaneously. It's like they were saying that they thought that the Bigfoot in the woods were just some kind of human.
Right. And if you did have people that, were mentally challenged in some way, that, without good care and compassion had ended up being released into the woods. I mean, there were people who dropped their kids off in the woods like they didn't, like puppies. If you had that happening, then it's not uncommon for other animals to take in offspring. I mean, we hear about it. We hear about apes and children. We hear about, the wolves and children, things like that. Why wouldn't a Sasquatch take in a kid?
Well, speaking of mental health, I found this one article that I can't not tell you guys because it's so off the wall. Like I kind of wish this stuff still happened in modern society.
What is wrong with you?
No, Krabs is absolutely right. That's a legit thing that was done, and yes, they did work.
And
on
it was
those
based around the Alma's
legend
the story that went around with the Alma and how, she had this one particular female had kids with a local guy up there.
Yeah, we actually touched that story.
We did.
Ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was,
and
like what,
they seemed to be closer related to Neanderthal than anything, especially with the drawings.
Yeah,
they had of her.
And when you talk at what is it? The Basque people talk about the hairy men, and there's one of my friends is doing research on Stone Age languages and making this connection to a particular deity that's hairy people and a hairy man, and that we learned so much art and natural foods and natural medicines and things of that nature from these just very calm, hairy people. And the belief is that they were Neanderthal, but we don't know because none of us alive just read Neanderthal.
The native people in southern Russia, they talk about the hairy people, their brothers that live in the mountains, and there's like certain areas they deem off limits, like
almost like a preserve.
Dyatlov Pass was one of those places where they said you couldn't go because it was considered a holy site.
Yeah, the Yeti is seen the same way, in the Himalayas, and honestly, I really do think that the aggressive little blocky ones are a different species because the foot shape is slightly different. They tend to be shorter. They tend to be blockier. They tend to be more aggressive. They tend to be more
almost reminds me of an orangutan.
A bit, yeah.
A lot of the Himalayan reports, they sound very Pongan in behavior. So,
well, we're looking at the orangutan. That one has been identified as like, oh wow, the Hobbit people are real and the orangutan were real. Oh, what else is out there that we just ignore?
The orangutan, which was the big one, it was the Bigfoot-like one, the one that was 6 foot plus. So,
well, I think the key is, like we said, like the whole episode's title, everything's on the table because it has to be.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that one, the Gadang, do you think that one might be an off-species of Gigantopithecus?
I mean, it's possible because it's right there in that same part of the subcontinent where the Gigantopithecus blackie would have possibly been.
Now, something that I found interesting with my research, in the Pacific Northwest, the Gigantopithecus like Bigfoot, I think probably fits with Blackie Eye. And the reason why was because, unlike other descriptions, this one had much heavier reddish hair, but it had a black or dark-skinned face that was hairless. And according to the natives, it smelled like burning horn.
Oh, wow.
So
that's really distinct.
Yeah, very distinct, not skunky. But these were the ones that had language skills. And my favorite thing that I tracked down on these guys was Sasquatch of this description that were an absolute pain in the keister for the natives, because when they were catching salmon and hanging them up and drying them as they would and smoking them, the Sasquatch would come out and snatch them. And so they would take the dried fish all the time, and they would have to leave people guarding them because they would come for the fish. You go out on the boat to get more, they come and get the fish. No indication they were eating them, they were just taking the fish. Lo and behold, there are stories in New Mexico, Arizona areas of hairy people with dark faces who come down, redheaded hairy people with dark faces. Some might think that it was Vikings, there's been some overlap in their area, coming down with smoked salmon that they would trade for fruits and vegetables. What is that?
Wow.
I think it's the same ones. They're like, oh, you don't really need that because you're leaving them over here on the side of the creek, and now I'm going to take them down here and trade them for what I really want. So I think that there was something going on there, and I think they have a very large wandering range, and I think that that particular type was considerably more intelligent and interactive and developed than, the de-evolved versions we've got over here on the East Coast. But that's my opinion, because we've got some skunk ape types that they've got the split toe for grabbing onto trees. And, again, they're the blocky, very aggressive little jerks. You find them in the areas my area, we've got a lot of karst formations. We have a lot of steep inclines, and you find them in those areas with steep inclines. But something I don't see anymore that I used to see a lot of reports on were the giant monkeys. I don't know if you guys have run across that or not, but it wasn't puppy people. It was a more like a baboon. But we're talking 6 foot or bigger baboon.
This thing was there's a name that was the Choctaw, I think it was who it was, and I'm probably wrong on which tribe that was, but they refer to it as the Gugwe.
I think
it had the snout looked more like a baboon,
right?
Extremely aggressive, would rip you apart, etc.
Right.
And it's one of those types, the devil monkeys. Yeah, it's one of those types that get labeled in with that group.
One of my nicknames when I was doing research, and I actually have this on a shirt, is Kudzu Monkey.
Kudzu. Oh my gosh!
That's there's a legend of a cryptid called a Kudzu Monkey, and it's probably nothing more than a groundhog, because a groundhog, when it sets upright, looks like an ugly baboon. But Kudzu Monkey is just, my best friend used to call me that all the time, and so that stuck as my name. And I have that on a T-shirt. It's a little monkey with a satchel and a baseball cap swinging through the kudzu.
There are far worse things to be called. So.
Well, out in the hollers here, they call groundhogs whistle pigs.
Yeah.
Yep, whistle pig.
Yeah, my sister will be right after it with a crock pot, so hush. Yeah, I'm at war with the groundhogs in my yard.
No.
And I have got one that I thank God he's dead. But this thing, his name was Chunk, and Chunk was gray, and you would find him 30 feet up in a tree. I have never seen an adult climb a tree. And this thing, it was war between us. And I would dump cat litter down his hole, and he would come up and take a dump right there in front of my front door on the mat. This was constant. I would put down repellent in the garden. He would come through and take one bite out of every single fruit, formed or not, just green, whatever, one bite, just teeth marks, wreck everything. It's a complete jerk.
Yeah, he'd have been a pair of gloves, man.
Oh, I tried. My dog
hilarious.
tried. He had a black scar down his side from my dog, and that thing lived. I was so glad when it got hit by a car. Unfortunately,
you were just living Caddyshack.
Oh,
right.
It was.
It did sound kind of like that.
Oh, we had a son of Chunk, and now we have the Chunkette, which I think is the great grandchild of Chunk that's trying to take over its place. And it's like, oh no. Yeah,
James says whistle pig is good. I got one living under my house now. Now I've got a bottle of whistle pig living in my pantry, and I can attest it is good.
Oh man.
Well, this started because my neighbor thought it was cute to have one as a pet in the backyard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, there's a big 10-inch drain system out here in my yard, and I've got the same issue. I got one groundhog that will use that drain system, coming up in and out of the yard and running, and he
ours
tore into my garden.
At a stone wall between 2 yards, so they come up through the neighborhoods, they cross the street. They go into a drain at the base of this stone wall and then split into the wall, go under the foundation of old buildings, and then pop up in different places. And they have to pop up and cross my yard, which is about an acre. And so they ran the gauntlet against my dogs for the longest time. But they've literally got a path in the yard. And me and the neighbor got 14 of them in 1 year.
God. Oh, man, that's a lot.
and they're big. City
Yeah.
groundhogs are nothing to fight. I mean, they'll rip the face off a small dog. They're awful.
Wow.
And you can't shoot them. You know, you can't discharge a firearm, so you got to get creative. You don't want to poison them because people have pets. So there's a lot
I
of
don't discharge a
eggs
firearm. I just launch a
bottle rocket,
a metal projectile because I live in a subdivision. I just launch a metal projectile from a thing that you got to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be an archery instructor, so yeah. Unfortunately,
sounds like you guys encountered the groundhog version of the Waltons.
I don't know what you encountered.
I
remember me and my old first shirt. We used to actually go and shoot groundhogs with an M1 Garand.
Probably a not groundhog.
Peak miss.
Yeah, that would be salsa.
Not groundhog.
Speaking of which, my father-in-law just got one.
Sergeant Bub.
Oh, anyway.
Hope you're doing well.
He just bought an M1A.
Okay, so questions? Anyone out there in the audience?
Anybody got questions?
Question.
Recipe for groundhog.
Nope.
I can give you one.
Hey, interesting fact while we're waiting for this. I found out that the name Caesar in Latin derives from the word that means hairy man.
Oh, really?
It doesn't surprise me. I haven't heard that, and I studied Latin, but it doesn't surprise me.
Caddyshack's Revenge.
Yeah, that's it. Caddyshack's Revenge. It's been an interesting show. Yes, it has been an interesting show.
I can imagine her crawling around like Bill Murray, dropping dynamite in little holes.
Oh yeah, M80. Now, unfortunately,
gosh.
these guys are smart. Their main hole is between the foundation of an old garage, so it's like cinder block, and my chain link fence. Oh. It's a tiny wedge I can't get into, and it's on the neighbor's property.
Oh man!
But I could take a cat litter box and go right on that fence, and throw rotten eggs at it.
Ugh.
So yeah, it has been an interesting show. We've talked from everything from Bigfoot to extra dimensional beings, groundhogs. What did I miss anything? Have I left out anything?
Did you want to go after UFOs or
UFOs? Yeah, you've seen a few of those actually. Yeah. Why don't you regale us with one of your encounters? Because
do you want to hear about the little delta shaped one or the one?
I like the Delta. The Delta's good because a lot of people will relate to that, and then Joe will get to scream out TR3B later. So it'll be great. Let's do that one.
So this was just a couple years ago, 2001 or 2021, I think it was. I'm not looking at my notes right now. Yeah. But I just come off the night shift working as a dispatcher at Hollins University, which is haunted, but they don't like anybody to know that. But had stopped off at the Food Lion on the corner from my house. So, just right here in the city. And was going to pick up some stuff for breakfast because it was Saturday morning. And I pull in 8 o'clock. And as I'm getting out of my car, I look up the way that I've just driven down the drive. And there is this little piece of trash, like a Mylar balloon or a plastic bag or something that I can see through the trees. And I like to watch leaves fall. I like little bucolic things like that. So I was watching it for a minute and I was thinking that is rising kind of straight up, which is weird. So maybe it's a slightly inflated helium balloon. And I thought, I'm going to take a video of this and mess with one of my friends and tell them, it's a UFO coming to get you. So I pulled out the video and started recording it as it's coming up through the trees. And it's rising straight. It's not floating, but there's like a flicker on it. Like there's more tree branches than there are on the trees. And I'm like, what am I seeing here? And then as it clears the trees, I see that it is this little delta-shaped craft. And it is reflecting what it was just passing through, the trees and everything. And the sky that I can see on it is the color of the sky from just a few minutes before. Like it's still slightly darker. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Now, so I'm videotaping this thing. I think I'm videotaping it. I think I'm videotaping it. And I watch this thing rise straight up. And then I watch it start motoring off to the side, which, would put it coming right across this window here. So it's motoring across the side. And I immediately as my hand is coming this way, I realize the little counter is not moving on my camera, and I'm like,
been there.
I
Yeah.
grab it,
yeah,
slam it real quick to record, and I pop it up. And I was like, well, I thought I had a UFO here. And in that clip, which I've sent Ron, you can see that little tic tac move between two clouds.
Yep.
And when it was motoring along, achieving cruising speed, I was watching basically a video, like a high D video of the sky from a few minutes before, with the cloud colors the way they were just a few minutes before, moving across it like it was cloud camouflage. And it was so cool. And I was like, okay, this is one of the coolest things I've seen in years. And of course it's off, off towards North County somewhere. And then about a year later, I'm coming home from work, and just doing it's a long hour drive because I've changed jobs, a long hour drive. And I just, love watching everything, and it's sunset, and it's a beautiful orange and gold sunset. And I'm just really enjoying it. And I keep noticing a point of light over to the side. And see, I come over the top of the hill, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm thinking maybe it's an airplane. And usually by the time I get to a certain point, they will have moved. Because, we do have a large airfield here. We do have a lot of military craft that come in and things like that. So I'm used to watching the skies and seeing if it's a big one or if it's something interesting. I've got pictures of Black Ops helicopters flying out. And, we have some interesting, we have Spare Force One, which is the replica of Air Force One,
Yep.
where the pilots clock their hours. And so they fly low over here, and we have lots of pictures of that one flying around. So, I'm always looking to see what it is. So there's this point of light that's not moving. And it's like, is that a star? And my friend PJ had seen a comet in the sky just a couple days before, a green, quiet flash through the sky. And so I was like, ooh, is something heading this way? What a strange angle. So as I come over the top of the hill, it is still present. So I pull off into like a Once Upon a Child parking lot or whatever, where I can get a view of it and take a picture of it, because by this point, it's either white or it's flash, and it's a bright light, and then it's white. And I'm like, okay, if it's a plane, it's going to be steady. If it's a meteorite, it's going to be steady. Anything else is going to be steady. Why is it flash bright, dim?
Mm-hmm.
Flash bright, dim. What's going on here? So I got a picture of it, and I realized my friend lives straight down the hill and on the right. So she's on the next rise. So I figure I can go down this way, get closer, get up on the rise, and get a better look at it. So I go down, and as I get down to about Washington Avenue in Vinton, I can't see it, but I know where it should be. So I turn up onto her street, go up on top of the hill, and immediately, I take my camera, and I'm going to get out the door, but I go ahead and look out first. And as soon as I look out, I see it above me, and it's flashing where for a moment it looks like that same delta shape. Mm-hmm. And it's sky colored, and then it's a bright flash of light, and then it's sky, and then it's flash of light. And I turn the camera on, and it's gone. And I'm like, you jerk. And I head home, and off and on, I'm catching it off in the distance. And I finally end up stopping at a gas station about a mile from my house. This happens within 5 miles to my house. And the other one happened within a half mile to my house. So I stop again. I look around, and this time I can't see it anywhere. It's definitely disappeared. But I'm like, okay, I'm playing peekaboo with this little triangle-shaped booger, because that's the second time, and now I'm watching for it. But yeah, so that's the most recent for me. And the other ones that people have been seeing have been balls of light. So
the interesting thing to me is like there's lots of reports of these things like flashing and making strobing lights. Like if they're trying to hide, they're doing a horrible job at it.
They're not trying to hide.
Well, you can see it in one of the pictures that I sent Ron. You can see there's a stoplight right here, and it's just
brilliant
light right here.
It brilliant.
Looks like a star out in the middle of the day.
Yep, That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like Venus in the middle of the day.
And I watched it for 30 minutes, and the first one that I saw, when me and my sister, when we were kids, we thought that was Venus. I mean, that's literally what UFOs are supposed to be. It's the star Venus.
Yep.
And we changed that, and it wasn't.
Yep.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, There's something in those photos. That's all I'll say. Unlike some of the photos I look at where I can just say, oh, that's a this or that. I cannot say what that is. And the fact that you have it over, a period of time suggests that something is definitely going on there.
Well, there's always something going on here. I mean, the ones that my friends have seen and the one that the young lady pointed at the checkpoint, they've all happened within the past year. And, Michael and his mom are driving into work January before last. And was it January? No, it was this past January, I think it was. And just coming down the road. And he's looking out, beautiful winter sky. It's before dawn because we go in very early. And he's just looking at the stars, listening to the radio with his mom. And all of a sudden a star goes, bloop, and takes off. And he's like, Mom, did you see that? And she's like, no, what? Nothing. And, I don't know exactly the story that my other friend and her boyfriend saw, but it happened not too long around last June or July. And it was a cluster of lights. And then the checkpoint one, she saw that one last November. And that was this, she described it using her points of reference. It was 2 bus lengths above the road because she's familiar with the size of a school bus. So 2 school bus end to end above the road, giant blue, I'm holding my hands way out there, but giant blue glowing ball.
Wow.
And no sound. She's driving home, beautiful night, and her husband's asleep next to her in the car, and she sees this thing just float across the road and head down general direction of where I'd seen the Delta thing. Not in my neighborhood, but more recently. And I don't know why that area would be attractive to anything, but apparently it is. And she doesn't know what it was. She said, I can't describe it, but it seemed like a natural blue. And so I sent her pictures of bioluminescent jellyfish and things of that nature. And she's like, yes, that's the color.
Blue white.
It's a glow that doesn't cast light.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's a glow that doesn't cast light. Exactly. And we hear quite a bit about that, don't we? I mean, that's the truth. But, the things are everywhere, obviously, and whatever they are. I mean, all I know is, that's all I know.
I love some of the stuff that,
so there's that.
I've loved doing research my whole life.
And the greatest thing about this is that, whether you believe Bob Lazar or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because, either he was used, but he told you so. And whether it be the truth or not, someone seems to be kind of echoing that stuff these days.
Well, it makes you think, and that's all that matters.
That's what we're here for.
Know.
That's exactly what we're here for.
I don't think he was paid because they have made his life miserable ever since he came out. Like, he's lost businesses. He's been arrested.
Oh, yeah, dude. Nobody would put themselves through that willingly. This is not going to happen. Not going to happen, in my opinion. But no, I mean, and what I'm saying is, they're literally everywhere, whatever they are. And again, looking at the data, all we can say is there appears to be some form of intelligence at work. You can leave that right where it's at. It doesn't matter as long as you accept the fact that there's something there and it's not us. And it's the same way with whatever's going on out there in the woods. There's something there, but it's not us. But it's intelligent. Yes, it is. And in some cases, it seems to be doing things that we can't do. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we have to look a little bit beyond just these ordinary set parameters that we want to believe in. It doesn't matter what we want to believe.
We got to think outside of the box.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we want to believe. That has nothing to do with it. Belief should have zero to do with you going out there in that field and when you're collecting that data. I mean, I take all this equipment not because I think it's something paranormal, but it's because I want to catch anything possible that we can pull up later on and use. If that happens to be,
like you said in the beginning, often this stuff happens when you're looking for something else.
And if it happens to be something that makes people uncomfortable, like that first time when we're documenting, the radiation spike with Joe, so be it. I mean, I would never imagine that some people would see that. I'll be granted, but the point is we go out and document things. It's not documented to put on TV. It's documented for us to look at as a data set in case something shows up.
When we originally filmed that, we put it out there just because when we were doing this, it was 2020.
Yeah, it was 2020.
And things were slow, and we're like, well, let's just start recording anytime we go out, and that way we'll put it up on YouTube, and people can view it and make what they want of it. And then now that's been seen by over 105,000 people.
It's been seen by a lot
for me, I'm convinced it's absolutely imperative that you get as much information, your type of weather, your temperatures,
moon phase,
soil conditions. For me, I don't use equipment because horrible things happen to it every time.
Yep.
So I use very, very most minimalistic stuff I can. But I will journal and note every little thing I can, because I promise you, sometime in the future, when this stuff starts to unravel and we start to understand it, it's going to be something ridiculously tiny, minuscule that everyone was overlooking. Because it's like the secret to the Roman cement. It was so obvious right in front of us all the time, this curing cement that you would cure underwater. It's made with salt water. It was made by the sea. We just never put together that the water they were using was salt water. It was that small. And now you have this indestructible concrete because salt water. It's going to be something that small. Maybe it's the oxygen concentration in the air. Maybe it's the particular angle of the light. I don't know. But every detail matters.
It does, absolutely.
Absolutely well said. 100% agree. But yeah, every bit of it. That's why we keep telling you guys, take notes, take notes, take notes. And
this is Ada, by the way.
Oh, it's Ada. Wonderful. Good. Well, Ada's going to be with us at the workshop.
Yeah.
And Ada's going to get to see how that really works, firsthand, and how much of a blast that's actually going to be. But you guys who are coming, you're really going to learn a lot. And it's not somebody trying to tell you what to believe. It's just people showing you, what worked for us. That's it. These are the techniques that we use. These are the things that we do because they work for us.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would really love to make it up, but I still don't know if I can actually pull it off. I'm going to try.
You never know.
Let us know. Let us know.
There'll be future ones,
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We do these over and over. So
I just think it would be fun as all get out, because I come from the low-tech way of doing this, and I'm cursed with a Snow White gene. So wildlife just walks up to me and says, "How you doing?"
That's me.
Yeah. Oh, God. I've got a skunk right now that loves me. I'm not happy about this.
Yeah.
I've not
had issues with skunk, but normally it's like
skunks are great. They're so useful.
Crows will come to me and give me things and stuff like that. But
no, it's a Snow White gene curse.
And then my wife says I'm parcel tongue for all those hairy.
Oh, great! That would be fitting too. No, Vicky woke up with a mouse right between her cleavage while she was asleep. I was in a 10-man tent, and then nowhere that I moved could I get away from the mole that was determined to come up and be my best friend underneath the ground. Woke up in Wyoming with 5 little mice asleep on the side of my tent. So I was like going, bee, knocking them off. Made friends with an ermine, actually a stoat at the time. And he paid me back by draping half a dead rattlesnake that he'd killed across my friend's boots that I'd borrowed. That did not go over well with anybody except me. Trying to eat watermelon at night at camp. Reaching over and there's something fuzzy. Turn on the light. It's a mouse that I'm sharing lunch with. Knew a guy, same curse as you. We were backpacking, and he went up to try to use a latrine. He was wearing sweatpants.
Oh, this is bad.
Down, he got cold-nosed by a deer. Yep, never heard a grown man scream until that point.
God.
When it's pitch black and a cold nose hits you.
We were hiking the Grand Canyon, and we were on the rim of the Grand Canyon, and I got kicked by an elk in my tent.
I got my tent picked up by a deer.
Nice.
He got his horn or his antler caught in my
tangled in the cross members.
That was not deer.
Lifted me. Oh, hush.
That was not deer.
Hey, you guys, I showed you the picture of me with the bear, right? Where I was pulling it out of the tent by the fur on its butt.
I don't think so.
No.
That's priceless.
Well, the worst part was when it grabbed my husband. That was funny. It's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time. It was funny now. But it was a young one. He was about the size of a German Shepherd. And we were all terrified of his mom. And that story is epic and takes far too long to tell. But yeah, I have grabbed a live bear around its mouth. I have pressed the sweet spot behind the fangs, the same way they have them with dogs, and pulled it off somebody. And my husband has throttled one. And it's still funny to this day.
Wow.
There's a bear anywhere within a mile of our house or where he works. Everybody will let him know that Bubba's come looking for him. And we've decided it's a special bear fraternity because all of us have been backpacking, hiking, everything. He was the only newbie. And we had never encountered a bear before. So it's his fault. He attracted the bear. Every time a bear shows up, it's his fault. It's the fraternity. You have to come and tag my husband. So all the bears are looking for him.
Now, this is just throwing this out here because I've used it in the past. Good bear repellent is the absolute best Bigfoot yell you can make.
I was going to say Axe body spray, but...
Yeah, that too. That's everything repellent, especially female repellent.
Well, anything that makes you bigger and scarier than the bear
will work.
Generally, yeah. They absolutely adore Planters cheese balls. You can lead them for miles with Planters cheese balls, but they come right back.
Good to know. Zakia has a terrible story. That's a terrible story, Zakia.
Oh, it was great.
I had shrews in my last apartment that I moved from. I woke up with a shrew that had slept by me, and it was under my pillow. I unfortunately rolled over on him and killed him. Oh, no. So my wife, Zakia, literally just texted me this a moment ago.
Ghost shrews, man. That's how you get ghost shrews.
I used to breed snakes. So
snakes, where I worked.
See?
Snakes have, certain diet.
Yeah.
And we had a African soft fur baby get loose in the apartment, and Kelly accidentally stepped on it, and her soul left her body.
Uh-huh.
And she sat in fetal position against the wall and cried. And I was like, if it's any consolation, this fate was going to be met one way or another. You just made the snake's dinner a little easier.
No, it's no consolation.
But yeah, she was pretty sad about that. And still, obviously, because she just brought it up. She's like, at least you didn't step on the mouse.
It's like I've had, years ago, I had a mockingbird, Milo. And Milo, he could mimic our voices. He would call our friends to ask if they wanted to come over to play, because that meant all of us kids would be out together. And it just loved that for some reason. It would call us out. Its favorite thing to do was to get my hair. I love that shiny gold. And so I would be sunbathing, and like one day I was trying to sunbathe out in the yard and in the driveway, and Milo kept coming down and snatching my hair. And I was like yelling at him and swatting at him. And one of the neighbors walked by, and he thought it was funny. And he was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "Stupid mockingbird, he's stealing my hair." And of course he didn't believe me, because most people don't. And then he came walking back from the store about a half hour or so later and happened to see Milo snatch my hair. And he fell out laughing about Pete himself. And I took him for a walk down through the backyard and just picked up a baby blue jay and said, "How about this? Does that work for you?" And he's like, "Ah!" I walk through the woods and pick up rabbits. They don't care. They're like, "Oh, you're one of us." I picked up a snake one time to see what it was, because it had struck out at one of our dogs. And my husband gives me nothing but grief for this. It was a baby, and it was black and kind of gray banded. And it was doing the tail thrash, and I didn't know if I was looking at a baby rattler or a little black snake or whatever. So I pinned it, picked it up, take a look at it, and I'm like, "Oh, you're cute. Oh, you're harmless." And I was making fun of it. I went to put it down, bam, nails me in the hand, and my husband's laughing at me. So now we're like, "I'm going to kick you."
Yeah, I'm the snake guy when we go out doing stuff.
My husband walks on him. He doesn't mean to, but
You remember the girl who brought us the rattlesnake?
Oh
at
God,
the pet store that time.
yes,
That was a great story.
Rattlesnakes have the worst attitude. It's like they have a permanent migraine and they hate everybody.
Well,
Ooh,
this thing
baby.
was rattlesnakes normally with me don't get that way. Actually, like rattlesnakes are really chill around me. I've got video of it too. I'm really good with rattlesnakes. They're one of my favorites. But this girl Ron and I worked at a pet shop together. Pat remembers these days.
Closing time was always the best time.
Yeah, because that's when the weirdos came in. And we actually would take instead of people letting their pets go, we would take them in. We would
Right. Yeah, I worked at a wet pets. So I worked with the aquatic pets and
Well, anything that came in, we would mostly we'd take it and trade give them something, just here.
I bred snow guppies. Did that.
This girl comes in with a Maxwell House coffee can.
Yep.
Oh, yep. It's going to be good.
And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, can you guys buy this?
Figures a bird or something,
Yeah.
They do that.
So we opened the thing up and I went, whoop, and shut the lid back on it because it was a freshly born baby rattler.
Oh, no. Ooh.
And
it was.
I was like, oh, no. First off, there's a few things here. One, we cannot buy. The reason they came in was we had a Mexican black rat snake that we had ordered that was in the shop for a while, and she had seen it and thought it was a regular black rat. So she thought it was a native species and that we were just taking and trading and selling native species. No, we weren't doing that. So
I don't know what she thought. I have no idea what she thought.
She
to be honest,
this little fire and vinegar critter into a Maxwell House coffee mug cup.
Somehow
brought it in with it had she ripped up some grass and threw in there for it. That makes it better, right?
Make it comfortable.
And she's like, well, what do I do with it? I said, well, I can give it back to you, but if this thing nails you, you're going to the hospital. And
no,
she's like,
you took it.
I don't want to
you
do that.
took it. You didn't give it back to her. You took that.
Yeah,
thing.
I took it.
And you're like, well, we'll take care of it.
Yep. So I took it and I released it, and yeah.
No, my friend and I used to go out and collect crawfish for a wildlife rehabber who had baby raccoons, and they have to be able to pass the crawfish catching test before they can go back to the wild. So we were very good at catching them. And one day there was this little brown snake that was tooling across there, and there goes Vicky. Ah! And she's got to take a look at it. Oh, it's pregnant. It's like, that's great. How do you know it didn't eat eggs? And she's having a good time with it and letting it go, and it's looking at her like, would you just let me go?
Yeah.
Abducting animals.
That's what the aliens are doing.
Just saying. Perspective. It's all perspective. It's all perspective.
Oh, well, this has been a good one. Like Ron was saying, we've covered a lot of bases. We've talked a little bit about everything. Got all the questions and such answered.
I think so, yeah. I think everybody got their questions answered tonight anyway. And we had new people. We had new people come in.
Subscriber who also became a super chatter.
Super chatter. Yeah, we had that.
Coming to the workshop. So, I'm stoked about that. I can't wait.
It's going to be great.
And Craig won a book.
Yeah,
yes.
Craig won a book.
Yes. How many spots do we have left? Do we know? Is it eight spots or something? I think there's 8 spots left, maybe something.
Left,
yeah.
We got.
But we're gonna have some really cool little gift bags for you kids too. So get ready for that. It's gonna be fun. Gonna smear some peanut butter on you and throw you out in the woods.
Cheese balls.
Cheese balls. Sorry. Cheese balls.
Hey, if you want to have a really obnoxious encounter, I've got this honeysuckle stuff, and apparently the smell of a female Bigfoot in heat is very much like honeysuckle.
Oh my gosh.
Saying, if you want to go there,
I'd rather not.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll slap a Reba McEntire wig on everybody.
That'll work. Yeah, that's going to be an encounter. I'm not sure they want to write about it, but it's going to be an encounter.
We are down to 8 spaces.
8 spaces? Okay, cool.
We're down to 8. And this is we set a low number on these at 25. That's where we cap them out, and we normally get around 20. And they're a great time, and that 20 to 25 number really helps everybody get the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You get one-on-one experience with each one of us that are there. You're going to have the entire collective with you. Everybody from our research team will be available to answer questions, to work with you hands-on. You're also going to get all kinds of great experience. You're going to get hands-on techniques. You're going to learn how to collect data. You're going to learn how to collect not only just with equipment, but physical data and journaling. So you can't beat it.
Don't forget your waterproof markers and your waterproof notebooks.
Yep, we normally that was actually in the first year's pass out. Brandon, I think, got one of those at one of my talks.
I did, yeah. He didn't realize who I was.
Yeah, I didn't realize who Brandon was at first because I hadn't seen him since he grew his beard out at that point. Because the last time I'd seen him, he just
that's where history deviated.
Yeah, I'm going for the Jack Black look right now.
No, okay. I'll make a note of that. What year was that exactly? Y'all remember?
Did anyone make sure that Ron is from this dimension?
Was it 2020? Okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure I'm not from this dimension.
2020. What is it? What? Creepy dolls. I still hate them.
You remember Berenstein or Berenstain Bears?
Don't care.
Bernstein.
Don't care. Don't care. Don't care.
But guys, thank you all for hanging out with us. This has been an absolute blast. Anita, thanks for coming on the show. I hope you had a great time. I know we did.
I had a great time.
Fun to hang with.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back.
A lot of people say that, and I don't know why.
Great
I don't know.
Personalities.
People
great
like us for some
minds.
reason.
It's just weird.
Work great together. Fantastic energy.
Thank you. I'm glad you had fun. I told you would.
Oh,
like
yeah.
we tell everybody that when they come on this show, and we hear it at the end of every show. Wow, that was the most fun I've had. It's like, told you. I mean, I'm sorry.
So
told you so. So there you go. I can use this for multiple things. It's not just.
I love how the green screen cuts out everything else
I
from your
know.
shirt.
But Bob,
it's great.
You need
That's
to get
great.
just a little prayer fan that he can just hold up every now and then.
Yeah,
There you go.
told you so.
So, John,
I didn't do
Mullins-
that. You freaked me out, man, when you did that.
Sorry, John Mullins. How do I register for the workshop? The best way to go register for the workshop is to go to wildandweirdwv.com. Once you're there at the website, go over to the
Resources.
it's in the resources tab.
BF workshop.
You'll see the Bigfoot workshop. Go in there. You can click the link there to register. It is $40. That covers your dinner, the door prizes, the everything for the day. It runs from noon
There's the link.
until we leave. So bring your own lunch. If you're going to do that, do your own lunch, and then we feed you dinner. There will be snacks throughout the day, so we're going to have drinks and snacks and all that all day long.
Why don't you explain the dinner, by the way?
The dinner, so I'm a classically trained chef. If you didn't know, I'm going to be doing a campfire dinner. Not 100% sure what we're going to make all together, but I do know that we will have some hot dogs. I don't know what else.
Yellow slaw, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll have the yellow slaw, the famous yellow slaw, and some
Indrid
chili.
cold slaw. That's Indrid cold slaw for you heathens.
Hey, be
I
nice.
nominate
That's
for
probably,
dessert.
that's probably my biological father.
It could be.
For dessert, I nominate a Dutch apple pie.
Well, then you can make it.
I was actually going to make two different desserts. We're going to have a Dutch oven apple cobbler and a berry cobbler. So we're going to.
Oh, and if anybody wants to bring their own food, by all means. I mean, they did last time.
Like,
I was going to
we
tell
had
you.
people at the first one we did that brought some of their own snacks. They brought cookies and some other.
They brought
stuff too.
cookies. Anita,
What?
what are you doing?
My
You
cat.
disappeared. Oh, okay. I thought she fell out of her chair for a second. Did you see
No,
that?
I just reached over to grab the cat.
Oh Lord, we just lost our
So
guest.
if anybody who's coming, if you want to bring like a thing of cookies, or if you want to bring donuts, or whatever, you can feel free to do that. But there will be chips and drinks and things like that provided through the day that you can get a hold of and eat.
There's
and
cat.
snack on before
Yeah.
But the dinner, we're gonna have two different desserts. We're gonna have at least hot dogs, probably some other stuff. Well, I know some other stuff. I just haven't quite figured out what we're going to have with it yet. But they'll be there. Dinner's going to be banging. You're going to love it.
It always is.
John says, thanks. I'll register. Pepperoni rolls. You know that might not be a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, brother.
But you know, it's a great time for everybody who comes out. We appreciate everybody that comes out and spends the day with us. You get more than your money's worth. I guarantee you that. And it's not. There's a lot of these expedition things that go on, and they charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go on them. And we want to make these experiences something that's attainable, something that people can.
I mean, if we got hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go on them, everybody's going to get a, freaking mag flashlight or something.
Right.
I mean,
we're making it worth it, you know.
But that's not happening. Just FYI. That's,
yeah.
For $40, you're not getting a mag flashlight. Just
no, you might get a flashlight.
No,
you might. You
might
get. You're gonna get some cool stuff. You're gonna get some cool stuff, and then we're gonna have that giveaway too. So.
We are gonna be. There's gonna be a couple giveaways there. There will be a giveaway made available for anybody who's wanting to attend the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival. There will be, if people are available to make it to that, then we're going to do a giveaway for it. And we're also going to be doing giveaways for the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival here on the show next week. So we're going to do something with that as well. You guys are awesome. We appreciate every one of you guys, all the super chatters, Teresa and Adam Good, Dewey Edwards, James Boggs, Spooky Appalachia, Larry Hose, and Craig. Guys, you are all amazing. Thank you so much. Y'all are great. We could not do this show literally without you guys. We could, but it would just be all on our shoulders. And this helps out tremendously, and we can't thank you enough. So we will do what we can to thank you. What else do we have going on, guys?
If that means stuffing Brandon into a barrel and shoving him off Niagara Falls, we'll do it.
Absolutely.
Whatever it takes.
I can think of a couple of hills we could roll them down. They're local.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, there we go.
That. Yeah. All right.
Sliding down Nebo.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, we could
Just
do
shut
that.
me down Cathedral Falls.
Oh, there we go.
It's an idea, man. I like that. Taking one for the team. That's why we like you, Brandon.
He's growing that
Brandon,
just to attract a Bigfoot.
do you have a link for your book, sir?
Yes, I do. It's on Amazon. It's also
Speak it.
on all of my Facebook pages.
Okay. What's the name of the book, Brandon? Tell these nice people.
It's called The Ouija Board Said It Was Hungry, and other
It's
stories.
just so creepy.
That's just a weird title, man. Just scares
You're welcome.
me.
So if you guys go look up The Ouija Board Said It Was Hungry on Amazon, you're going to find Brandon's book. The cover art is red cover art with a black half skull on it. It's really cool.
It's just as scary as you think it is.
Yep. So go check that out if
That's
you're
really
interested. Then everybody else, thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a great show. Anita, thanks for coming.
Next week, big launch, because we are, that'll be right before the workshop, right? So the big launch right here.
Yep.
And boy, it's going to be exciting. So don't forget to be here for that one. Get over there as soon as it goes up and hit that little notify me, so you do not miss, because there will be a major announcement made here as well.
Ooh. All right, guys.
Yes.
Remember, you can always catch us out on the road at various shows. Ron's going to be at the Kecksburg UFO Festival coming up here in a couple weeks. He's also going to be speaking at the Paranormal Group in St. Albans. Then you can catch me and Ron at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival. It's going to be a good time. And we got Cryptid Bash coming up too in August. That's going to be a fun one.
Cryptid
and
Bash.
Don't forget Wood Booger Jamboree on August 12th.
Yep, Woodburger Jamboree. You guys better get down there, because it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot more people who signed up for that. So we're thinking about packing that park this year. And I hear there's going to be some good food there this year too.
Yeah, there is going to be some good food. The cafe that I work at, we're going mobile. So we're bringing the crew down, and we're going to be cooking there.
Good stuff.
At Woodburger Jamboree. It's all going to be my recipe stuff. So come get it. And then we've got, we're also doing a big book and school supply drive. So bring in crayons, pencils, backpacks, all that good stuff. We're going to be getting those out to the Boone County Board of Ed to disseminate to the schools, and it's going to be a good time. Oh yeah, Pat reminded. Don't forget, we got Thunder in the Mountains. We need to be added to the graphic.
That's right. It's actually, is it on this one?
It's October 15th. I think you added it to one of them. Yeah.
I don't know if it's on this one or not.
But we're going to be at the Thunder in the Mountains powwow. October the 15th.
It's not on there. He's right. This is the old one.
So, guys, if you're in the Fayetteville area or want to come to a powwow and experience First Nation culture, come on out to Thunder.
Get a hold of Thunder in the Mountain as well. I know they were looking for sponsors, guys. So if any of you guys want to get out there and do something really good for your community, I'm telling you, these powwows are monstrous. They use back in the day, we had them all the time. They're just amazing. They're peaceful. They're incredibly. It's awesome to see so many different people come together and just have fun. There's no politics. There's no, nonsense. It's just people having fun and learning about culture, and not just one culture, but all culture, which is just amazing. So it's really a great thing. And if you want to support that, then please do get a hold of Thunder in the Mountain, and I'll actually throw their webpage up here for you guys. Yeah, it'll be put up in the bottom here. So you guys, please, by all means, go out there and support these guys. They're doing a great job.
To get great evidence, I'll volunteer to be covered in peanut butter.
Okay.
You got it.
All right.
You got it.
Brandon, looks like you're off the entertainment list. The barrel's not needed. We get a smear peanut butter on a volunteer. So
yeah, he volunteered.
It's always better when it's a volunteer.
It's volunteered.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, if you want to keep supporting Wild and Weird Radio, you can do it right here in the live chat. You can join us. You can become a sponsor. You can also go over to wildandweirdwv.com, hit the shop tab, and you can peruse our wares and get something sent straight to your house. That goes straight into feeding everything we got going on at the Wild and Weird Empire as well. Thank you again, Anita, for coming and joining us. And as
Joe, get the people who, make sure if they're still here, the people who went over the 20 mark, get their addresses.
Yeah. Everybody who sent your $20 and above thing, send us your address over on Facebook, or obviously don't drop it in the chat here.
No,
go over to Facebook.
No, don't do that.
Send it to us in a message. Wild and Weird West Virginia or Wild and Weird Radio. You can get a hold of us either way there, and we will get you your stuff because y'all are awesome. And remember, the best evidence for Bigfoot hunting and collecting of stuff. Just cover yourself with peanut butter or Nutella. I've heard Nutella works too.
Nutella?
Stay wild and weird, everybody.
Nobody's going to want Nutella.